Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
I think GB News is completely unique in the way that we interact with our viewers.
Our audience aren't afraid to have their say. They want their voices heard now, and they've got a channel where that can happen.
I find more and more as I'm wandering around, people come up to me and they say, "We saw you on television." I say, "Oh yes, on what?" "On GB News." "Hello, are you the famous Sue?"
The whole crew hid me here now. We came to celebrate.
It's our job to be the eyes and ears of the viewers.
They are part of the GB News family, and I'm pleased to say it's a very large family.
And if people go to the time and trouble of listening and watching, then we've got to do a good job for them.
Well, I'm here right in the epicentre of the protest.
Here we go again.
If you just tuned in, where have you been?
It is raucous here tonight.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Very good evening, good morning, live from Washington, D.C. This is Bev Turner on GB News with the stories that are shaping Great Britain and the United States of America. Coming up tonight.
He's going to have to mention it because it's killing your country. And they're invading Europe. I mean, they're invading Europe. It's an invasion, and the UK is a prime suspect.
The president called it an invasion when he was talking to me only yesterday. Well, it turned out to be rather prophetic because today thousands of migrants have swum into the Spanish enclave of Ceuta from Morocco. Is this the height of Europe's border farce also?
Obviously, there are crossings this week, but overall, if you look at the picture in 2026 compared to last year, 2025, there is significant progress.
The Prime Minister today finally broke his silence on the state of Britain's borders. Will he heed the message of President Trump as more than 750 migrants crossed the Channel to the UK on Wednesday alone? Also,
our relationship with Europe is at the heart of our foreign policy, and I've been visiting our closest neighbours that have been so badly affected by the wildfires, and together we're going to tackle the climate crisis because it's absolutely in our national interest.
So the Foreign Secretary has been touring Europe, pledging solidarity amidst the wildfires. And Suffolk have continued to battle the inferno, covering an area roughly the size of 140 football pitches. We'll have an explanation as to what is causing this. What do you think also?
Fans from everywhere in the world would gain immeasurably from this game-changing potential. It will transform football in their countries.
Well, British teams may not be at the next World Cup, apparently, as European nations agree to boycott the event if Gianni Infantino goes ahead with selling off part of the tournament to private investors. Just what will be the result of this extraordinary FIFA boycott? Also tonight.
3% of spending on GDP by 2030, is that a target?
I endorsed John Healey's resignation letter wholeheartedly at the time.
The Defence Secretary Wes Streeting appeared inconclusive over a guarantee that Britain will spend 3% of GDP on defence by 2030. How serious is this government about bolstering the UK's depleted defences? That and a whole lot more. I'm Bev Turner. This is The Late Show Live. Very warm welcome. Delighted to say joining me in the studio this evening, my panel, Democrat strategist Malbert Smith and journalist and broadcaster Mark Alberts. And in London, we've got journalist and broadcaster Christo Fufas and podcaster Lewis Oakley. Good evening, gentlemen. Great to see you all. Thank you all for joining me. And I'm going to get a bit confused in the studio here because we've got Mark Albert next to Malbert.
If you put Mark Albert together, you get a Malbert.
Can I just call you both Malberts? Just for the sake of it. Although that gets more complicated, doesn't it? But good to see you, fellas. Right, on to our main story this evening. Thousands of migrants have swum into the Spanish enclave of Ceuta from Morocco, exploiting a legal loophole after a court ruling changed how migrants intercepted at sea can be returned. So you may have seen this throughout the day. If you're watching on America, you might be absolutely gobsmacked, as we'd say in Manchester, at these pictures. This is a tiny North African territory that is now saying it is overwhelmed because local leaders are urging Madrid to declare a national emergency as shelters fill far beyond capacity. More than 700 people, most of them young men, have arrived by sea. That is swimming there, not on a boat, swimming there. In recent days, several migrants are reported to have died attempting the crossing. Most arrivals are later transferred to mainland Spain while their immigration status is determined. Now, the Trump White House has repeatedly likened the chaos at Europe's borders to an invasion, with the latest scenes from Spain are his words looking eerily prophetic. Let me ask my panel here. Mark Albert, let me come to you first on these pictures. As an American, when you think about the EU and Spain and the UK and the problem that we have with people escaping, fleeing places, some of them have persecution, not all of them. I mean, that guy there with his six-pack, he doesn't look like he's fleeing a war zone in which his life has been at risk. What do you make of it when you see those pictures?
It's actually really heartbreaking to see people who are risking everything to go to a different country. Just think about, for example, in this hemisphere, when people go up from South America, Central America, they have to go through, parts of the Amazon and the Darien Gap and all these really, really dangerous people. And imagine the desperation why they are doing that. On the other hand, President Trump has said, look, you've got to have border security, and I don't think any president would disagree with that. We are seeing governments, though, really, really challenged to enforce it when there are such dramatic disparities around the world and really some humanitarian crises.
But those guys are not desperate. They've done a 300-metre swim, 400-metre swim. It's not actually at this narrowest point. That's the distance between mainland Morocco. They're young, fit, healthy guys who've been sitting around looking at social media where it appears that you can have a Ferrari and be like the Tate brothers within 6 weeks of being in the West. They're going to get a nasty shock when they realise that Europe is actually in the doldrums at the moment anyway. But Malbert, these people, I don't blame them for wanting a better life, right? I've been to Morocco. Outside of the five-star hotels, it is poverty-stricken. People are walking around in bare feet. I mean, it's really grim. I get it. I understand why they're doing it. But should the Spanish people be subjected to this?
Well, it's difficult because we know that they are fleeing from desperate economic conditions. But with that being said, traditional asylum law, having to, being in a bad economy isn't necessarily a reason to be able to claim asylum in a different country. I think this points to a broader issue too of we need to get to a place internationally where there might be preferred destinations of where you want to live, but you don't have countries that are so destitute that people will risk dying by swimming leagues to get to another country. And I think politically, putting aside just the policy aspects of it, politically, it's always tough for a government to deal with these images because a lot of folks are, at least I can say in the American sense, are welcoming of immigrants. But one of the things that I think was really problematic and troubling for the Biden administration was images of chaos, images of what looks like pandemonium at the border, at a town being swamped by lots of new arrivals. Even those who say, I think we should be caring, we should figure out a way to welcome immigrants are going to say this isn't something that looks necessarily like it's going well. Because no one can look at that. If you're even if you're really pro-immigrant, no one can look at that and say this isn't the ideal system.
Yeah, we don't know who they are. We don't know what criminal records these guys have got. Most of them will not have criminal records. Let's be honest, most of them. I mean, they look like teenagers. They look like they're coming to a music festival, some of them. That guy might work really hard. He might be a brilliant asset to any company that he would go and work for. But this isn't how Europe should function. It's not really how any parts of the world should function, is it? Shall we talk to London on this? Christo and Lewis Oakley are there. Christo, let me bring you in on this. I think part part of the issue, and just to kind of echo what Mark was saying there as well, is the problem with these young, fit, healthy, probably ambitious, possibly hard-working young men coming over, is that they do make things worse for those people who genuinely might be fleeing persecution, who genuinely might be a mother and children that can't feed her kids because of a despotic regime. How do we sort it out, Christo?
Well, look, we need to say what these people are. They're economic migrants. They're making a choice to make that journey because they want to improve their lives on an economic basis. And I get your point that you were making, actually. I think it's fair why they would want to do that. Who wouldn't want to do that? But you're absolutely right. The first responsibility of a government should be to the people that reside in that country already. That's got to be the first responsibility. And if an influx of people in the thousands is going to put a strain on the services in that part of the world, well then immediately the authorities are failing in their responsibility. They're also, by the way, failing in their responsibility to those people who are actually making the journey, because I think now it's being reported, some of the figures are a bit hazy, but at least 7 people, some reports are saying 9 people have died in the crush and in the way in which those journeys are being made. And so this is dangerous, but it all comes down to the Supreme Court ruling from the Spanish Supreme Court that said that the normal rules of being able to turn round migrants do not apply, and this ruling came about 3 weeks ago. They do not apply to migrants that come via the sea. If a migrant has to go over any kind of physical border barrier, then they can be immediately returned. If they come via the sea, it's not considered a border barrier, border infrastructure, so therefore the rules of them being turned around doesn't apply. And it's one of those instances where the court probably thought they were doing the right thing, but I can't imagine anyone in Spain or in that part of the world is looking at the court thinking, yeah, thanks very much.
Yeah. Lewis, President Trump yesterday talked about it as an invasion, and that is a very provocative word. And until recently, anybody that used that word in the UK would have been hounded out, would have been cancelled, highly criticised. I think we are getting a bit more comfortable with that language, though, around the people that want to move into Europe. And you see that picture today. Does the word invasion fit the bill?
I don't know that it's very helpful. What we need now is solutions, not hyperbole or inflammatory language. I think that politicians in Europe, particularly on my side on the left, are actually now really struggling with this reality of, okay, what do we do? Because the polling is very clear. Like, Europe is going to lurch really far left over the course of the next couple of years and half a decade when it comes to those elections. So I do think they need to get a grip on this. And I think, as Christo is saying, like, people are dying. So it's not this idea of, like, oh, well, we're just the nice people because we're letting everyone in. I do think that a lot of the citizens across Europe see images like the ones you've just played and say, this doesn't make me feel happy. Like, what are we going to do? But the reality is, what are you going to do? As soon as someone is in the water, you can't just push them back into the sea. Like, you're going to have to take them in. So then and look at how many people arrived today. Like, you can't possibly process that many people. So it is a real issue. Maybe it brings us on to foreign aid that I know a lot of people in the UK want to cut, but maybe it is about helping improve countries overseas so they don't want to come here.
But do you know what's frustrating is it's idiot judges. It's idiot judges that do not think of the consequences of the rulings that they are making. That's what this is about. Could they not understand that by making that ruling that there would be a wider consequence? I mean, it was one particular person that took their plight to the Spanish Supreme Court, and that's how this ended up happening. And what did the judges think would happen? What did they think would happen?
Yeah. And there's always a lawyer. There's always a lawyer in the background of these migration cases, isn't there? Making themselves rich and making life difficult for lots and lots of people. Let's talk now to the political reporter for the Daily Mail, Victoria Churchill, on this. Victoria, thank you so much for joining us this evening on The Late Show Live. Good to see you. So yesterday, when President Trump said in the Oval Office, Europe has to get a grip on this situation, you are suffering from an invasion, it seemed inflammatory, but when you see these pictures, is he right?
Well, I think that these mirror images that we saw here in the U.S. before President Trump took office, he shepherded the idea that his administration has pretty much made illegal immigration non-existent of people coming into this country by shutting down the border. And I think the Trump playbook, even though people might not want to follow it just because it's attached to his name, when it comes to enforcing borders, there may be some lessons that European leaders can learn from what the Trump administration is doing. Now, when you look at immigration enforcement within the country, that's some things where I think he's had some justifiable criticism of how, ICE agents and CPB agents are conducting themselves in the country. But I think at the border itself, there's a lot that can be learned.
And it starts with will. It starts with the fact that President Trump came in with the political will to make change and make it happen. Do you see any sign that the will to close down the borders in Europe is starting to develop? The EU had a vote just recently, didn't they, where it appears that they are going to become a little bit more muscular in terms of turning people away?
I think we are seeing that will develop. Of course, as we know, post-Brexit, Britain and the UK are not part of Europe, but I think just seeing that even more left-leaning governments are willing to embrace these policies is a sign that this is not just something that is confined to the right, whether that's the American right or the global right. Immigration is something that President Trump talked about a decade ago when he was running for president in 2015, 2016. And so I think that was part of why the immigration issue, at least here in America, got branded as a right-wing issue. But I think when you see left-wing governments want to take up the issue, it gives a signal that, border security is not limited to just the right, and that a country is changed when you have people, particularly unvetted people, that are able to come into a country, stay pretty much indefinitely in a lot of these cases. Immigration takes a while, right? That's what I always like to say when I talk about this issue. Coming from a personal perspective, it took my family 11 years to get citizenship in the U.S. And, some people it can take as little as 5 or 6 years. Some people it takes longer. It is a grueling and arduous process, but it's there for a reason, to make sure that the people that are actually in the country are there to be to the benefit of the country and its citizenry and not to the detriment.
And the leader of Cuenca, he has wanted the Spanish government to declare an emergency, and Pedro Sanchez said, no, it isn't an emergency. Is there also a sense, do you think, Victoria, that we know that particularly Spain actually has an ageing population? They do need more young people to prop up their economy, at least they do while they've got some jobs before AI takes them all. I wonder whether the willingness is there because they still believe that this is economically viable for them and in fact positive.
Well, I know that when you look at the U.S., the birth rates are definitely of a concern, and I think that happens to be the case in most developed nations across the world. And so, when you talk about things like propping up social programs, which Europe has a lot more of than we do here in the U.S., that is definitely a concern of who is going to pay. And so if you have less people going out, having jobs, paying taxes to even support that aging population, you do have to get people from somewhere. There is definitely measures that the Trump administration here in the U.S. has taken to encourage people to have families, saying that babies, for example, are going to be given investment accounts from the day they're born to kind of make sure that everybody has access to markets and economic growth that we're pushing here in the U.S. But you have to still be having babies to sustain that. And so if other countries aren't willing to make that push, they're not going to be as successful. But this is a problem not only in the U.S., but also even in Europe and even in Asia. That's a big problem.
Yeah. Okay, Vic, thank you. So good to see you. Victoria Churchill there from the Daily Mail, based here in Washington, D.C. Still to come this evening on The Late Show Live.
Obviously, there are crossings this week, but overall, if you look at the picture in 2026 compared to last year, 2025, there is significant progress.
Prime Minister Andy Burnham finally broke his silence on the state of Britain's borders today. Will he heed the message of President Trump as more than 750 migrants crossed the Channel yesterday? This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
isn't it? No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches,
From football to tennis in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there.
With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast,
Every morning from 6 a.m.
only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dormy, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories.
And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And meeting your favourite presenters across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Scan the QR code or visit gbnews.com/celebrate. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back. So 4 migrants have died, we understand, and more than half a dozen others were injured in separate incidents in the English Channel overnight. 3 women are believed to have died while trying to board a so-called taxi boat near Dunkirk, while a man died when another overcrowded dinghy capsized off Dan. The deaths came as more than 750 migrants crossed the Channel on Wednesday, the highest daily total so far this year, despite government claims that the overall number of crossings has fallen. President Trump issued a blunt warning to the Prime Minister confronting the migrant crisis that he describes as killing Britain.
You've had a couple of weeks to get to know our new Prime Minister. Have you spoken to him much? And do you think he is the man to lead us to excellency?
Well, he did say one very good thing. He said he's going to open up North Sea oil. If he does that, you're going to be a wealthy country. If he does it reasonably. They have 2 problems. They have a huge immigration problem, people coming from all over the world and just camping out in your country. He's going to have to mention it because it's killing your country. And they're coming from all over the world. They're coming from Africa. They're coming from South America. They're coming from different parts of Asia. And they're invading Europe. I mean, they're invading Europe. It's an invasion. And the UK is a prime suspect.
So let's talk now to political commentator Jess Kane and former Liberal Democrat councillor Matthew Hulbert about this issue that just will not go away, will it? Good evening, good morning to you both. Good to see you. Jess, let me start with you. President Trump does not hold back when he talks about this topic. And is it problematic for the British government to be held to account like that by the leader of the free world?
Definitely not. I think Andy Burnham really needed to be told on this. It's, 10 days into his premiership, and before yesterday, he hadn't given anything substantial about illegal immigration via small boats whatsoever. So I think it was well deserved from President Trump.
Yeah. Matthew, is it Trump's job to be telling Andy Burnham what to do?
Good to see you, Bev, and good to see Jess as well. So a few quick points from me on this, if I may. So first of all, no one wants to see people risking their lives on the high seas. I hope we can agree on that. Two, and this may be where we part ways, but I'm going to say it nevertheless, it's not a crime to seek a better life. That is not a crime. Three, there should be more safe and legal routes for those genuinely fleeing persecution and seeking asylum. Four, I accept that most people aren't as liberal as me on these matters. I totally get that. I'm on the very liberal end of these things. But I think we need a system that is both firm and fair, and both of those are important. And finally, and it's a shame that I have to say this, but sometimes it needs saying, because too few people say it in these discussions, these are human beings.
Jess, these are human beings, but you know who else is human beings? The British taxpayer, who've paid into the system all their life and now feel deeply aggrieved that their hard-earned money is having to fund people who arrive in our country having not contributed whatsoever to our system and start to take. And that is what is upsetting people. The figures actually are better. Andy Burnham is right on this. For the first half of 2026, January to July, the small boat crossings were down 45% compared to the same time in 2025. And 90% of illegals, we understand, arrive by small boat as opposed to maybe by the back of lorries, although no doubt that's still happening as well. They are getting somewhere, Labour, on this. But do you think they have the political will to take it down to zero, as President Trump has done?
Well, look, I accept crossings are lower now in 2026 than they were in 2025, and I welcome that. But they're still not 0%. And I do think that should Andy Burnham approach this with a stronger hand and a bit more of a steel behind him, then perhaps we'll see that figure start to drop more. Because why is it that we've had 752 arrive yesterday? Why is it all of a sudden? Because at least Sir Keir Starmer and his administration were a bit stronger with the messaging going out to illegal immigrants saying, do not come here, you are not welcome here. Whereas you've not seen Andy Burnham address this issue head on whatsoever. If I was an illegal immigrant, I would be testing my luck to see, you know, am I going to get even more allowances in my free hotel? Am I going to get another brand new shiny iPhone? It's true.
Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence for that?
If you go to Quadrant Court in Coventry, if you go to Quadrant Court in Coventry, it's a HMO. They get given free meals, free phone. They get given an allowance. I know because I have seen it myself in Coventry. I've got some girlfriends who live there, and it is just outrageous, the stuff that they're entitled to merely because we are housing them. This is all paid by the British taxpayer. The British taxpayer does not want to fund this, unfortunately. I understand they are human beings, but we have a duty.
I'm glad you recognise that.
Obviously, but
Matthew,
we have a duty.
Do you think, Matthew, though, do you think that you're in the minority, Matthew, with how you feel about this? Or do all your Liberal Democrat friends feel the same as you? Do you all, you know, sit around like making your own yoghurt and talk about how you can welcome... I'm sorry, I'm terribly stereotyping. Whatever it is.
Wearing sandals, making our own
owls? Do you crochet owls?
Look,
right, when you're sitting around, do you all say, isn't it awful, we just need to welcome more people because we have the facilities to accommodate them?
Look, I mean, I think I'm on, the liberal wing of the liberal wing. I mean, I've tried to get worked up about this issue, and I just can't. But I accept that, I'm on the very liberal end of the liberal end of things here, and most people, sadly, in my view, but most people aren't there. Most people have very considerable issues with this, and I accept that, the viewers of your fantastic channel, this is probably their number one issue, and I try and come on and get them to at least think ever so slightly for a moment in a different way about these people, because they are human beings, and whether they should be here or not, they should be treated humanely whilst they are here. And what I would see is a system that is both firm but fair, and both of those words matter. And it's not very often that I quote Tony Blair, the former Prime Minister, but I think he was right when he said, back when he was PM, that this is an issue that should be dealt with and not exploited. And I fear that too many in our public life, and some political parties, do seek to exploit it, even to the extent that they don't actually want to see it dealt with. Because if it was dealt with, they'd be drained of their support.
Matthew, when you see the pictures like we've seen today in Kuwaita, this little area, Spanish, off the north coast of Africa, but a Spanish area, well, I've never heard of it before today, I don't mind admitting that. Are you shocked, though, when you see those pictures and you think, I'm really glad I'm not living in that town tonight?
Yeah, of course. I mean, those pictures don't look good, do they? But, then I gently suggest an answer to that, which is, more safe and legal routes for those genuinely fleeing persecution. And I get told that I'm wrong for saying that. So, I mean, these people can't win, can they? They're seeking a better life, rightly or wrongly. Some of them will be genuinely fleeing persecution. Others won't, but will be looking for better opportunities in their lives. And there's nothing per se wrong with that. And so that's why I say we need a system that is both firm and fair.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. Jess Kane there, and a very good friend of the show, of course, Matthew Hulbert. Thank you both. See you again very soon. Let me go to my panel on this now as well. Malbert Smith is here, Mark Halbert, and in London I've got Christo Fufas and Lewis Oakley. Similar topic, really, guys, and what we were talking about at the top there. But Christo, let me bring you in on what Matthew was saying there about the fact that he does see them as human beings, and some of them will be fleeing persecution. What's your response to that?
Well, yes, some of them will be, but the problem is that there are always going to be some genuine people there. That is absolutely true, but it is such a small number now of people that are genuinely fleeing persecution. Secondly, let's look at the way in which the protests took place here in the UK. Remember when there were the protests outside the Bell Hotel and those sorts of places where migrants were being housed? Those protests started when those hotels became just for young migrant men. When there were families in those hotels, those protests didn't take place. So the British people, I think, are incredibly compassionate when they think that someone is genuinely fleeing persecution. We saw it with Ukraine. But when people are coming over in small boats, not only does it undermine those people who are absolutely genuine, it also does such damage to the British psyche, because the British psyche is obsessed with fairness. It's one of the things that culturally I think makes us a bit unhinged, actually, British people. But, it goes to the heart of our soul. It's cricket, it's queuing, it's all those sorts of things. And it might be a small number of migrants when you look at immigration figures overall that come over on small boats, but it's not the point. It's the idea that there is a lack of fairness. It's the idea that people can jump the queue and do this without actually any kind of consequence. It's the idea that we have lost control. It's the idea that you do the right thing, you work hard, you pay your taxes, and you're clobbered, but other people get away with doing things they shouldn't. And that is so damaging to democracy, to people's psyches, to everything.
Yeah, the concept of justice, I mean, our country was built upon it, wasn't it? We have the mother of all parliaments. Like, in terms of democracy and of justice, it is steeped and it is deep in our bones, Lewis. And I think that's where the British people maybe feel at the moment, is we feel like we've had the absolute mickey taken. And I can't use another word, even though it is midnight. We feel like our generosity has now been abused. And maybe if we were all swimming around in cash and we were paying hardly any tax and all our public services worked, worked. And there might be a little more generous space in our heart, but it just isn't there at the moment because reality has bitten for most people, but it doesn't, Lewis, appear to have bitten for those people making the decisions.
Well, you say that. I mean, Andy Burnham this week was saying that actually when he was going around campaigning, the two biggest issues on the doorstep were the cost of living and immigration. So I do think that that message is cutting through. I actually think I would echo a lot of what has been said. I mean, I think Matthew was right. I think that British people, you know, will see these people as human beings, and we do want to help as many people as we can. But as Chris has kind of outlined, you know, when we don't have money to fund public services, but there's money there to look after people that are arriving. And I think that the biggest problem really is just that our government doesn't have this under control. And I don't think it's good for, you know, I'm from an immigrant family myself, but I don't think it's a good vibe in our country at the moment. And I think it's breeding from this idea of, you can't control this, you are the government. Why can you not set a target of how many people can come in a year and stick to it? And this is, you know, this crossing with the boats, this is not new. Why has this taken so long to solve? And I appreciate that the numbers have gotten better over time. But I think we're running out of time, and if a Labour government can't do it, the British government, the British public are going to vote in a political party they think can.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Thank you, folks. On the issue of the deaths in the Channel, a spokesman for the government has said, we are deeply saddened to hear about these deaths. Every death in the Channel is a tragedy and a stark reminder of the dangers posed by criminal gangs exploiting vulnerable people for profit. We will continue working relentlessly with the French and our partners overseas to prevent these perilous journeys. The French authorities are leading the response and investigation into this incident. Let me know what you think at home. I know you will. gbnews.com/your say. Still to come this evening on The Late Show Live.
Our relationship with Europe is at the heart of our foreign policy. And I've been visiting our closest neighbours that have been so badly affected by the wildfires. And together we're going to tackle the climate crisis because it's absolutely in our national interest.
As the Foreign Secretary has been touring Europe pledging solidarity amidst the wildfires, Suffolk has been battling an inferno covering an area roughly the size of 140 football pitches. What might be causing it? This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. A lot of you have been getting in touch at home this evening. Robert says, I have no charity for these people. Tim says, we nearly have lost our homeland, that our ancestors' blood is here. We can't win. We're being persecuted, losing our homeland, culture and freedom. We are human beings too. And Lucius says it's not the lack of fairness or justice that gets people's goats on illegal migration. It's the embarrassment of having a country or a government incapable of controlling the issue. It's a very good point. Keep your messages coming. Right, welcome back. Throughout today, around 120 firefighters and 18 fire engines in Suffolk have been battling wildfires covering an area roughly the size of 140 football pitches. The fire broke out on Dunwich Heath with a major incident declared due to the size and complexity of the blaze. And of course, all of this has taken place just 4 miles from Britain's largest nuclear power plant, Sizewell B, which has been placed on high alert as a result of the blaze. So although Suffolk Fire and Rescue Service said there is no current risk to the Sizewell B plant due to the direction of the winds, officials are continuing to monitor the situation closely. And earlier on, the Prime Minister described the seriousness of the incident.
Well, obviously, we got the situation under close monitoring. I'm receiving regular updates. It is a very serious incident. I will make sure that Suffolk Fire and Rescue Service have all of the support, the mutual aid from other services that they need, and any other resources that need to be brought to bear. It is a serious incident, but we are watching it very closely indeed, and all of the support needed will be there.
So with me now is Senior Lecturer in Sustainable Construction and Climate Change, John Grant. John, thank you for joining us. It's been a while. Great to see you on The Late Show Live. Now, what is causing these wildfires, John?
It's the climate emergency. What we've got is a warming world because we've got an increasing amount of global warming gases in our atmosphere. It's been predicted. Sadly, this is not a shock. We'd hoped to push this further back or even minimize these effects, but because we're still in a strategy of trying to pump and burn as many fossil fuels as we can, as well as being unwilling to change this, it is the poor people and the vulnerable people around our country and other countries also. We're not the only ones by any means suffering these terrible, terrible wildfires, which, are only going to get worse. This is probably the coolest summer that we're going to remember going forwards. That's the sobering future that the Met Office sort of talked about, that our climate has just changed from what it was 20 years ago. It's not the same place. And unfortunately, our emergency services and our farmers, our built environments, our homes, our cities are just not designed for this anymore. And we've not got a preparation plan. We should be doing something to prepare for this now. I would have liked to have offset it, but now we have to do something about minimizing the impacts.
What do you say, though, John, to those people who argue that the Earth's climate has always turned in cycles, and that what we're in here is very similar, that we had thousands of years ago, a warm period in our history, and it will cool again, and it will warm again, and it will cool again, it will warm again. This is what the planet Earth does, and that the measuring started at the start of a warming period, and that's what we're experiencing now. Just challenge that assumption for me.
It's a very good question. It's one that we should ask, and I would like to put to the viewers there that literally there's nothing better than scientists love to do is to take an assumption like that and either pull it apart or agree with it. This is what scientists do. We are not driven by money the way that other people are. We love to prove each other wrong. That's the way it is. And you know, that's the nature of science, that we test these theories. And the very real fact is that those warm periods during human history that people talk about, the medieval warm period, the period when the Romans invaded Britain, these were nowhere near as warm as they are now across the globe. We might have seen localized warm periods. I mean, even in 1976, you look at the data for that, it was really warm here over the UK, but around the world, that wasn't the case, you know. But what we're seeing now is, because we've increased these warming gases, we're holding on to more heat from the sun that's coming down now, and it's warming the earth much more as a broad element. And the oceans have been saving our bacon, so to speak, for about 50 years. They've been absorbing well over 80% of that heat, and now, well, the chickens are coming home to roost, and that warming effect is starting to be felt by us on the land. I wish it were true. I really do.
But the thing is, John, there's a lot of people who are really enjoying this summer in the UK. Loving it. All those picnics, all those lunches outside, getting the kids out of the house and swimming in the sea. Flipping-tastic. So it's very hard for people to be asked to change their lifestyle right now for something that might happen in 200 years. Because how quickly do you think? Okay, I want you to respond to my timescale. Like, how quickly could humanity, or could the UK? What impact could the UK have on the warming climate if everybody started to, I don't know, turn off the tumble dryers now and we move to all renewable energy, and everybody made this their priority when they woke up in the morning? We couldn't realistically, John, have an impact on the temperature of the planet, could we?
Well, we are having an impact on the temperature of the planet, first of all. So that is a fact. But the reality is that, you know, your comment, and I hear this a lot about trying to get individuals to save the world, and you are right. An individual action has a almost unmeasurable amount of impact. However, 1%, between 1 and 3% of carbon dioxide is being emitted by the UK, or by our actions, if you look a little bit wider about why we consume stuff. There are 30 other countries that are producing a similar amount of us. So this is a global effort between all of us small emitters, which isn't a small emitter, that we're in the top 30, that we need to act, because between us we produce more carbon dioxide than China or America, but it needs to be across the world, and we need to take responsibility, because the UK, of course, started all of this. If you take into account our historical emissions, we're about fifth in the amount of carbon dioxide. We are about fifth in terms of the impact that we have already made. And so, you know, we being responsible, but also being amazing at inventing things and coming up with new plans, we've got an opportunity to take advantage, economic opportunity to take advantage, because a pound spent now can save loads in the future.
All right, John, we can see why you're a good lecturer, senior lecturer in sustainable construction and climate change. Great to see you again, John Grant there. Right, still to come this evening on The Late Show Live, we'll have the latest newspapers. The Daily Mail is reporting Burnham admits oil drilling can ease the cost of living. Well, that'd be bad news for John. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there.
With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain is not just a geographical expression. We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature, which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Portillo. Every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Right, welcome back to the Late Show Live. It's Thursday night. Let's have a look at some of the main stories on the front of tomorrow's newspapers. The Daily Mail is reporting Burnham admits oil drilling can ease the cost of living, signalling a break with Ed Miliband's net zero agenda. New Prime Minister concedes Britain can't ignore the resources in the North Sea. OK. Should Andy Burnham be drilling for oil? Let me go to my panel on this. Lewis Oakley, let me ask you first in London. Should Andy Burnham, I mean, not himself. I mean, I know he's like Mr. Ben at the moment. He walks into a room and he comes out as a different outfit on every day, it seems to me. But the Mr. Ben analogy might be lost on everyone. Do you know who Mr. Ben is, Christo?
I know who Mr. Ben is, yes. It used to be a very famous children's cartoon.
Thank you, my friend. I bet Lewis is way too young and you're too American. Mr. Ben was a children's programme. It was a brilliant cartoon in like the 80s, and this little character would walk into a shop, a fancy dress shop. And look back now, it was a little bit kinky actually. But he'd pick an outfit and then he'd go into the dressing room, put it on, and then he'd go and live the day as a fireman or, you know, whatever it was, a builder or something. And we've got this Prime Minister now who seems to be popping up in different outfits every day and talking about different industries. So should he be dressing up as an oil driller, Lewis, and going out there and drilling baby drilling for the sake of the UK?
Oh, do you know what? I get so much conflicting information on this. It's really hard to have a perspective. Sometimes people say, well, there's not really much oil left down there or whatever, or even if we did drill, it's not going to improve our finances, whatever. Where I sort of come back to is we still need oil, and when we talk about our carbon emissions or whatever, I've never understood why we have other countries drill for us, then ship it over, which must create more CO2, so you may as well just have the oil that's under our feet. So I kind of think that he probably should.
I feel like that. We're a bit short on time. I want to get something from my American guests because they didn't get to talk last time. Mali, do you find it amazing that the UK has this oil and we're not accessing it?
I think you should just drill for it. Look, I'm someone who thinks you should have an all-of-the-above energy strategy. The United States has essentially had that by accident because Democrats invest in green energy, Republicans are pro-drilling. We flip-flop, but both those policies seem to kind of move forward at the same time. So look, put solar panels where you can put them in the UK, put the windmills places places, sorry, Bev, about the birds, and then drill for the oil because, I think that the green energy investments are the way, are the future, but drill and get the oil there while you have it.
Christo, should we?
Absolutely, 100%. Just drill. I honestly don't even know why this is a headline, actually. I mean, Burnham admits oil drilling can ease cost of living.
Because of the wildfires, Christo. The wildfires, that's why. Because we're ruining the planet, that's why.
Meanwhile, the Pope is Catholic and Diana is dead. I mean, yes, oil will make us money and it will all work out for us. I mean, I think Lewis actually made a really good point. We need it anyway. We don't have the technology for a completely green transition, so of course we need oil. It's moronic we don't use our own.
Mark, should we?
Let me read you a quick headline. This is from earlier this month. The United States produced more crude oil than any other country in 2025, extending a streak that began in 2018 under the first Trump administration. So if the U.S. can achieve this type of independence and exporting more crude than any country in the world, a lot of other countries, including the U.K., could certainly export more as well.
That conversation about drilling killing the planet just doesn't happen here in the same way. It just isn't part of the sort of agenda or the narrative at all in the same way that it is over for us in the UK, your tiny little island. Right, more to come in the next hour, including this.
Fans from everywhere in the world would gain immeasurably from this game-changing potential. It will transform football in their countries.
I don't believe for a second this will happen, but British teams, some are saying, won't be at the next World Cup because European nations are agreeing to boycott the event if Infantino goes ahead with selling off part of the tournament to private investigators. Is it a coincidence that he had this idea after being here in America and talking to that man in that picture? This is the Late Show Live. We'll talk about that in just a minute, only on GB News.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. A dry day to come for most of us, a few light showers across more northern areas, but for all of us it will be feeling cooler. Most notably across southern and eastern areas of England where we have had a heat wave through this week. Temperatures will be below the heat wave threshold through today, but there will be quite a lot of sunshine, particularly through this afternoon for much of England and Wales. Further north, more in the way of cloud, a few showers coming and going, particularly across parts of Northern Ireland and northern and western Scotland. Quite strong winds up towards the Northern Isles as well. So we'll feel fresher here, temperatures in the mid to high teens, in the mid-20s as we head further south and east. So still a pretty warm day, high UV levels as well. Very little in the way of sunshine to end the day across parts of Scotland. A few breaks potentially across more eastern areas in the cloud, but for most of us it's going to be cloudy skies and showers here and there. They don't look particularly heavy. We have had some quite heavy showers earlier on this week. It does look a little bit lighter than that, but we could see a few of these showers pushing into some western and northern areas of Wales. But for much of England and Wales, it's going to be a dry end to the week, clear skies as we head into Saturday as well. So that will make for another quite fresh start on Saturday morning, particularly across England and Wales and more eastern areas of Scotland, northern England too. Further west, more in the way of cloud, and showers will continue to feed in from the north and west. Temperatures down in the low single figures. Rurally, many towns and cities just about 10 or 11 degrees to start the day on Saturday. So plenty of dry weather to come this weekend on both Saturday and Sunday, most notably across more southern and eastern areas. There's a risk of showers through much of the weekend, especially across parts of northern Scotland. But for most of us, it's going to be a dry one. As we head into next week, though, it does look a little bit wetter. And temperatures very similar on Saturday in the mid-20s further south, high teens further north. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there.
With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Very good evening, good morning, live from Washington, D.C. This is Bev Turner on GB News with the stories shaping Great Britain and America coming up tonight.
He's going to have to mention it because it's killing your country. And they're invading Europe. I mean, they're invading Europe. It's an invasion, and the UK is a prime suspect.
Talking to me in the Oval Office yesterday, the President called it an invasion. Well, it turned out to be rather prophetic because these are the pictures which we've seen today. Thousands of migrants have swum into the Spanish enclave of Ceuta from Morocco. Is this the height of Europe's border farce also?
Fans from everywhere in the world would gain immeasurably from this game-changing potential. It will transform football in their countries.
So Infantino came to America, probably got lots of rich people in his ear, and now he wants to do this. Well, British teams may not be at the next World Cup as European nations agree to boycott the event if he goes ahead with selling off part of the tournament to private investors. Why would they be so upset about that? And will there be this extraordinary FIFA boycott? Also tonight.
3% of spending on GDP by 2030, is that a target?
I endorsed John Healey's resignation letter wholeheartedly at the time.
The Defence Secretary Wes Streeting appeared inconclusive, let's just say, over a guarantee that Britain will spend 3% of GDP on defence by 2030. How serious is this government about bolstering the UK's depleted defences, and should we be worried? Also tonight.
The last time Labour did its early release under Keir Starmer, some of those people had to be put back within 24 hours.
This is so shocking. New figures show that reoffending in the UK has reached its highest level on record after nearly 70,000 prisoners were released early under Labour's emergency scheme to ease overcrowding. And with Andy Burnham's brief pause on early release, how do we ensure a more long-term solution? Also,
all of this is an illusion.
an echo of a voice that has died. And soon that echo will cease.
I am very excited about this. It's the smash hit, anti-woke, mythical drama, The Pendragon Cycle, Rise of Merlin. It's the co-creator and former CEO of the Daily Wire, Jeremy Boring, who's responsible for it. He's going to be here with me in the studio to tell me all about it. I'm Bev Turner, and this is The Late Show Live. If you're just joining me this evening, it's very nice to have you in the studio this week, or tonight, just for one night only, not the whole week. We won't do that to you. Democrat strategist Malbert Smith, journalist and broadcaster Mark Albert. We've got a Malbert and a Malbert. No Malbec, unfortunately, that's a shame. And in London, we've got journalist and broadcaster Christo Fufas, broadcaster and podcaster Lewis Oakley as well. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for joining me this evening. Are either of you in London familiar with the Pendragon Cycle?
No.
No, not a clue.
It sounds like a fitness regime.
It's one of the most watched. It's one of the most watched dramas at the moment on British TV. It's on Amazon, and it's taking the world by storm. It's a real anti-woke fantasy drama. It'll be right up your street. Anyway, I'm talking to the guy that
Definitely
invented
not made by
in
the
studio
BBC
in a little
then.
while. Say again.
Definitely not made by the BBC then.
Oh no, and that's why I think Christo will like it. You may not like it, Lewis. I think our audience will absolutely love it. But anyway, moving on to the main news this evening, because it's across the front pages of lots of newspapers. British teams may not be at the next World Cup because European nations have agreed to boycott the event if Gianni Infantino goes ahead with selling off part of the tournament to private investors. The decision was made at an emergency meeting called to discuss the proposal announced earlier this week by FIFA, which oversees world football. So UEFA, which governs European football, has already made its opposition clear by releasing two statements, and the strength of feeling has been reaffirmed. The World Cup cannot be treated as an investment product, it said today. There has been a fury with UEFA and several of its members leading the way that FIFA head Gianni Infantino has been secretly working on partly selling off the money-making parts of the governing body to external investors. Here he is with some people in Qatar holding his thumb up going, yeah, I'll have a few billion quid. Yeah, lovely, take that. Let's talk now to England football superfan Andy Milne. Andy, can you help me understand this, please, in a little bit more detail? You would think that any sport would be welcome of money to make it, what, better, more accessible, livelier, more watchable. What am I missing here, Andy?
Well, of course, you know, everybody welcomes a bit of extra money, but it's the consequences that go alongside that extra bit of money. We've just had a tremendous World Cup as far as the football and as far as the fans go. I know a lot of the Americans were really surprised with just how friendly and how welcoming different nations from around the world could be. But we had a real taste of it, didn't we, in America, with changing the rules, bringing in hydration breaks, which we know are effectively advert breaks. We had the huge increase in ticket prices. A lot of my friends just couldn't go this time because it cost so much. We had dynamic pricing. We had a countdown that was sponsored at the beginning of the match. You know, with these changes, we could see football drastically change forever.
How? I still don't understand it. What? Because it might be because I'm from a kind of amateur sport background. So I was a swimmer. My brother was an Olympic swimmer. My ex-husband was an Olympic rower. And I think about those sports where athletes just didn't make any money. You got your lottery funding, and they were always looking for investment in those kind of sports, the amateur sports. I know football is so different, but I kind of presume that football is already awash with money anyway. How is this going to make it any different?
Well, we've just come off a World Cup in which the president of FIFA and the president of the United States couldn't stop boasting about how much money had been made. So do we really need to go down this? I think the bigger story really is how this has come about. We've got the president of the chair of the English FA, Debbie Hewitt. We've got the president of UEFA, Alexander Seferin, and we've got the chair of the North American Football Association, CONCACAF. All three of them saying that they weren't consulted, that they were completely in the dark. Those are 3 of the 8 vice presidents of FIFA. By implication, the vice president of UEFA and the president of the Asian Confederation, by what they've said today, were also in the dark. So who made this decision? Was it Infantino on his own? You mentioned that he had been secretly consulting. Why was he secretly consulting? Where's this money going to go to? How much of that money is going to go back into the game? He's offered a £40 million incentive to every confederation. And a lot of these are very small countries, and £40 million to those few members who are on the board there is a huge amount. That's basically to coerce them. It's a bribe in everything but words to come on board. The timescale is minuscule. They have to agree to this by the 19th of September if they want to get their cash cow. We've already had, without the vice chairs of FIFA knowing, we've already had a company that has been targeted with President Trump's son-in-law's brother in that company, who's going to be running FIFA. These are decisions that have been made with no consultation at all amongst the hierarchy of FIFA. So they're coming out today. I understand that it was a very volatile meeting, the UEFA meeting today, which was unanimously voted by all members of UEFA to stand against these proposals. And if they're brought in, then to withdraw the teams from FIFA competitions.
I see. OK, I'm starting to understand it a bit better now. I'm looking on the front page of the papers because it's surprising how many newspapers in the UK are leading with this actually tomorrow, Andy. It shows you how big a part in our hearts the British people football has. And obviously we just come off the back of this amazing World Cup, gutting that we didn't do better as a team, of course, but what an amazing experience. How do you get the title, Andy, of being the super fan? How have you earned that moniker?
It's something that's come off the press. They work with it. I do go to World Cups. World Cups is what I do. I'm a big England fan. I've been following England since 1979, and I go to a lot of England matches home and away. But I've been to 9 World Cup finals now. So hopefully the last one's not my last.
Boycott it. I guess what they're doing now is they're holding them to ransom, right? They're holding Infantino to ransom. They're saying that if he goes ahead with this deal, they will pull out, and they've got to make the decision in what sounds like about 6 weeks' time. It sounds like he's given them. So that's why they've now said we won't go. But ultimately, we've got another 4 years. Surely this will all be ironed out by then.
Well, you would hope so. So. Infantino's been around for a long time, and he's like Teflon. He's nothing ever sticks. But it seems that this time, a lot of his allies in FIFA are furious with the way that he's acted. They're furious with the way that this has been, the decisions have been made. And I think that everybody in football is entitled to know who is making these decisions in FIFA and what is going to happen to that huge injection of money.
Yeah, and hopefully it doesn't all go in his back pocket. Andy Milne, thank you so much. England football superfan there. Thank you so much. Right, with me in the studio, 2 Americans who may not know much about football. I mean, is that a terrible thing to say, Mark?
I mean, we know a lot about football. We don't know a lot about soccer.
Well, that answers the question for me, doesn't it? But what's going on here?
Yeah.
Is it because this has got kind of a whiff of like that American investment mentality written all over it?
Well, for me, it is interesting that there was such a backlash, because it's not surprising that a private
sports league would want to make more money. In the United States, it's like you go to an NBA game, you go to Capital One Arena, and they're playing for like the Hershey's, Coke, Diet Coke cup, and everything has a private
But maybe that's why. Okay, so that's what they don't want then.
That's what they don't want. It is funny to me though, because it seems like everything in America now, you kind of turn over a stone and you find a Trump family member making money. We have Jared Kushner's brother has the investment firm.
Who's the son-in-law of President Trump?
Who's the son-in-law of Trump. Has the investment firm that is the major investor in this. This comes after, and this is something I actually supported of Trump, when he called Infantino and got our player back on the field.
You did not support that?
Yeah.
Oh, stop
Of all the corruption you guys have, of all the corruption, that's what you're mad at?
And yet that's the one thing that I'm really appalled at President Trump for doing. That was outrageous.
I'm way more appalled that he created a cryptocurrency and has benefited $2.2 billion from the presidency while average Americans lost lots of money in his cryptocurrency. I'm more worried about that than him advocating for Americans and getting our player back on the field. But all I'm going to say is, after that, we get this investment announcement from a Kushner. Doesn't look great.
Mark, what do you make of it?
So I'm actually going overseas in a couple of hours, and I'll be very curious what this is going to be, the buzz will be about it. I actually wonder whether people overseas, and even in Britain, look at the outcome here in the U.S. where you had skyrocketing public transportation to get to studios, you had super high food, you had people bait and switch with their seats that were horrible, and they're like, it's only going to get worse if we have investment companies involved in the World Cup like this. So I wonder whether that's part of it. We're just fresh off the World Cup seeing that.
Yeah, and I have to say though, I mean, I think for most of the Europeans that came over here, that social media was awash with people saying how amazing America was compared to what we're used to. I mean, our shelves are often empty in Europe these days, and we come here and this is literally like the land of plenty.
And ranch dressing.
And ranch dressing. The number of social media videos about ranch dressing, you're not kidding. Everyone was stunned. Right, what do you think in London, boys? Christo, Lewis, why should we care whether football gets a massive injection of cash and gets sold off a bit? Do you get it, Christo?
I do get it, because, look, at my core I'm a capitalist and I believe in capitalism. But the problem is that one of the things that makes capitalism great is competition. Competition that drives then a better deal for the consumer. Well, there isn't any competition within World Cup tournaments. There is one football World Cup. So that to me is the one flaw in this plan. But I think that some of the points that have been made already are absolutely pertinent, in as much as there is so little faith in FIFA and the World Cup in general, I think, when it comes to, let's say, its fairness, let's say decisions that are made, the hydration breaks, which are absolutely excuses for adverts to be shown, let's be honest. If you make it about shareholders and the number one priority, them needing to make money from this, well, there isn't the competition that is going to drive a better deal for the consumer. But secondly, are you going to then have those firms, profit-orientated, saying, well, actually, sorry, we do need this to be 4 quarters because we need to have more advertising because our shareholders didn't do that well last time. Oh, actually, sorry, we need the game to be a little bit better because the ratings weren't very good. All of those sorts of interests would be served.
I've got it. So we look on football, Lewis, as already being a bit corrupt and money-driven, whereas those people within it see it as having this purity that they believe will be diluted by these extra shareholders. Is that what's going on here?
Yeah, you know what? I think that all the stories we talk about, we don't talk enough about greed. And greed is ruining our country. There is too much greed going on. And now that it's hit football, I feel like people are actually seeing it for what it is. And we're talking now about FIFA, but don't forget there was the Super League they tried to create a few years ago, and that had huge backlash. And you know what? A lot of the people that I know that are really into football just say this used to be a working man's sport, and now I can't afford the season ticket. I can't afford to take my son to it. People just want to watch people play football. All of this investment is just about making the rich richer, more billionaires, more billions. People just want to watch a good game of football.
But don't tar. I think that we need to be careful not to tar the whole of the capitalist system and greed with this, because the
Have you seen the state of our country?
Hang on, the capitalist system and greed drives investment, drives jobs being created, and also drives firms to want to get customers, meaning that they will try and cut prices. They will try and actually compete with each other. The problem with the greed in this
not working anymore.
The problem with the greed in this is that there is no competition. It's the same with the water companies. It's the same with those privatized entities where there is no competition. That's the flaw in this. And if there were 5 World Cups, well then great. They'd probably all be competing to make them as brilliant as possible, but there aren't here.
Christo's living in some idealistic fantasy. This is not the way the world is going. We know that the gap between the average working person and the super rich has gone like that, especially after COVID.
That doesn't.
I'm sorry. If the average person can't afford to, take his son to a football match, then something's going wrong. Your capitalist system doesn't work.
I don't care if the rich get richer, but if the gap is big, if the poor are still better off than they once were, I don't care.
They're
if
not
the gap
better
is
off.
even
They can't afford their
bigger.
groceries. I'm picking up
we need to move on.
Americanisms.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. What's that? The groceries?
I said groceries. I'm picking up Americanisms from being on this show.
It's called your big shop. Right, the Defence Secretary, Wes Streeting, has repeatedly refused to guarantee Britain will spend 3% of GDP on defence by 2030, despite backing John Healey's resignation over the issue last month. Pressed repeatedly in a series of interviews today, Mr Streeting said any increase in military spending must be fully funded, insisting that the government would not make spending commitments without explaining how they would be paid for.
Got to demonstrate, before I ask for even more money from John Healey as Chancellor, the money that we're already spending is being well spent. And one of the reasons the Prime Minister's asked me to undertake this role in responsibility is when I was the Health Secretary, this is the approach I took there. So we had new money for health, which is delivering improved performance and falling waiting lists. But at the same time, I was also going after the NHS's classic problems of overspending. We balanced the books for the first time in a decade. Some of the productivity challenges, which can sound quite abstract in a conversation like this, but that's about making sure the money that goes in gets maximum bang for the buck. So I'm doing a similar approach here at the Ministry of Defence, tackling some of the historic challenges around procurement, value for money, doing what we say, when we say it, and making sure we keep to time. So getting to grips with all of those challenges.
So those comments come after Prime Minister Andy Burnham also stopped short of committing to the 2030 target, instead backing NATO's longer-term goal of spending 3.5% of GDP by 2035. The lack of a firm commitment is also likely to attract attention in Washington, with President Trump continuing to demand that allies spend more on defence. Let me talk now to National Security Spokesman for Restore Britain, Henry Bolton. Henry, what do you make of Wes Streeting's reticence when it comes to this topic? Why will he not make this commitment?
Well, I think, first of all, I mean, I'm going to start off by being a bit kind to him. He's been in the job for, 10, 11 days. And he's not the man who controls the money. It's now John Healey, the Chancellor. So for them to both have sorted this out, I do understand where Streeting is coming from. It's very challenging to be able to make that sort of commitment and explain where all the money is going to come from in that period of time in office. So, but on the other hand, this government needs to decide whether it's going to be committed to this or not. And a clear statement of intent on that, in that way, I think is absolutely fair to expect. The other thing I'd say is that the 2035 commitment takes us it will take us not to the next government, but to the one after that. So this 2035 commitment, even if it's meaningless as far as I'm concerned in the way that British politics works on the electoral cycle and the way that governments sort of evade commitments on expenditure. So it's pretty meaningless. And the final thing I'd say is 3.5% is absolutely not good enough. By 2035, all that will achieve is enabling the British forces to mark time. They are not going to be able to build. They're not going to be able to fully fill the gaps in their capabilities that have been allowed to occur over the last 15, 20 years. It simply is not enough. We need to go to 3.5% now, not in 2035, now. And really, we should be hitting around 3.7 to 4% by 2030, 2035 at the very latest. It's simply
How would you do that, Henry? Now we haven't got any money. We can't even pay off the debt on our loans. We don't have the money, do we, to go to that kind of level now?
Well, I think, it is about decisions. Money is short. Of course it is. We're spending $8 billion on asylum seekers. We're spending probably a third more than we need to on international aid, if not more. We're spending a huge amount, an ever-increasing amount, on welfare bills. I mean, we're now, for God's sake, we're now paying benefits to men who come from abroad with more than one wife. We're paying however many wives and their children benefits. So we are making political decisions in this country that incur expense whilst neglecting our defence. If we don't have adequate defence, everything else is vulnerable. Everything. If we fail to defend the United Kingdom,
what are the clear threats now, Henry? What are the clearest and direct threats to the UK now, would you say?
I mean, as of today, a threat isn't a present risk of, for example, President Putin launching some sort of attack against the United Kingdom. For example, our underwater infrastructure, our communications cables and so on. That's not, today is not the problem. There's not particularly one today. It is about future intent and capability. And if you look, for example, at the Russian economy, 40% of the state budget goes into the defense industry. There are millions of jobs in the Russian Federation dependent upon it. And if peace breaks out in Ukraine, and God hopes that it will, then President Putin can't switch off that tap without absolutely destroying the Russian economy. He is going to have to justify continued expenditure. And we've seen that historically in Russia and the Soviet Union. We saw it after the Afghan withdrawal. We saw it most dramatically in the Russian Revolution. I know that's a long time ago, but the Russian economy is vulnerable to these sort of shocks. You can't suddenly turn the industry that's supporting the war effort around to its previous civilian usage and production, because the markets are no longer there. The markets have been filled from other sources. So, and you're going to have about 800,000 soldiers returning to Russia. Now, President Putin's been very bellicose about NATO. He's been painting NATO and the West as the enemy, as an existential threat to the Russian Federation, wishing to break up the Russian Federation and destroy it. Now, that is preparation, I see, and I think anybody concerned about defence is going to see that as a potential threat that could emerge if there is peace in Ukraine, and even before that, but if he finds himself with the opportunity to continue justifying his expenditure. Excuse me.
All right. Okay, Henry, thank you so much. Henry Bolton, deep insight there. Thanks, Henry. Good night to you. Now, let me bring this to my panel here. Go on, Mally.
So, Bev, when I saw this story, I couldn't help but think about Liz Truss and the bond markets and then the head of lettuce, because I feel like the real thing that's happening here is that Burnham is going to have to make choices, because unlike the US, where we can just spend freely and apparently our debt and deficit doesn't matter because we are the world's reserve currency, we're the world's largest economy, and we've just had a long leash, the UK actually has to make choices. And Burnham, the government, doesn't want to get over its skis, freak out the bond market, and then have an economic kickback that affects his prime ministership. But the thing is it's going to be difficult to balance all of these needs, because I do think you guys should spend more on the military, but if you spend a little bit more on the military, that means he's not going to have the same amount of money to spend on
NHS, social care, education, potholes,
green energy, whatever you want to say it. And again, like, I think that the lettuce outlasting Liz Truss has been a scarring incident, and it's going to really discipline a lot of governments.
Well, so absolutely any new administration does not want to get over their skis. But in this case, I wonder whether they're not on solid ground, because eventually Donald Trump is going to say every NATO country must be at 3.5% by 2030. And remember the new target. The new target is not 3 or 3.5%. The new target is 5. 5% in 9 years. And so if the UK won't even commit right now to the first target, when does Donald Trump open up both cannons and go after the new prime minister?
Well, it's probably only a matter of time on that issue. And I know he feels really strongly. And I understand my boys in London. I understand why the Americans and why President Trump and his government get frustrated with the UK, because he feels like he's been bailing us out for years on defence. And it's only really now, when you've got a president here who is calling out the NATO members and saying, enough, you've got to pay your share, when you realise how relaxed we've been, Christo, about this issue for so many years. This isn't a left-right issue. Subsequent governments have just failed to invest in our military.
Yeah, we've got completely complacent. We've always as well assumed that there would be someone in the White House that would come to our defence and come to our aid. And Donald Trump, I think, has been a wake-up call for that. And perhaps the fact that, I mean, let's be honest, Trump has a slightly less predictable nature than some of his predecessors. And what has been exposed is when you don't agree with the person in the White House, then you become much, much more vulnerable, and we are vulnerable. Without America, we would be absolutely up the creek when it comes to our defence, and we should be committing today, now, to spending more money on defence. The problem is that we have a government that can't take money from the place that is the most obvious to take money, and that is the benefits bill. I mean, what's so moronic about this is that there will be no one on benefits if we're at war. So a reduction in the benefits bill to put towards defence, actually long-term, would mean that everyone is safer. If we don't do that and we end up in a vulnerable situation and America aren't there to come to our defence, well, no one's going to be worrying about the benefits bill then, are they?
Yeah. Lewis, how have we got ourselves into this situation as a country? Is it that complacency that Christo talks about?
Look, I think we probably have had our priorities out of order a little bit. I mean, we have record high taxes at the moment, so the fact that we can't commit to defence is worrying. But I will say, you know, Wes Streeting did say just a few days ago that he would resign if they didn't meet their commitments, and we've got a new Chancellor in now who has a really good record on this. So I think we probably are going in the right direction. But what really perplexes me is all we ever hear about is what percentage of GDP we should be spending. Oh, Trump wants this, we can commit to that, blah, blah, blah. I think I want better questions. You know, I want to know how fast could Britain mobilise? How much ammunition have we got?
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit more about infrastructure. You know, if Russia attacked us, have we got the infrastructure to keep ourselves going if we were cut off from the rest of Europe? But I will say as well, I do think, you asked why have we gotten complacent? I do think there are probably a lot of people that look at this and say, look, we're part of NATO, you know, attack on one is attack on all, we've got our mates, we've also got nukes. Who's really going to try it? And so maybe there is a bit of that.
I think as well, just one very quick other point as well. We've left ourselves really vulnerable in as much as you imagine that there was an incident that required us to mobilise quickly. Well, we don't make steel anymore. I mean, raw steel is so important when it comes to things like that, and we've completely net zeroed ourselves out of any of that. I mean, what are we going to be doing? Importing steel from the enemies that will be attacking us so that we can defend ourselves? You know, that's the kind of lack of joined-up thinking that we've had, I think, in this country, and that all plays into our complacency.
Just one more thing, back onto the GDP of it, though. Can I say, like, Iran has changed the game a little bit. Look at the damage they've been doing with, like, 40k drones. So I do think that we need to have a proper discussion about what does war cost these days, and maybe, you know, maybe it isn't the 5%, maybe it is something a little bit less. So I do think we need to have better discussions than just saying a percentage of GDP.
And I think we we presumed that war in the 21st century would come in the shape of cyber attacks, right? That's what we've probably been invested in. No, we didn't think we were going to need tanks, and hopefully we don't. And it feels like any kind of hard munitions that we've had, we've been very willing to hand some of them over to Ukraine, it seems, as well. I mean, but like you, Lewis, I'm confused about quite how bad it really is and how vulnerable we really are. My understanding is we still have the best intelligence services in the world, in the UK, and we're still working closely with America on that area, and hopefully long may that continue. We've been focused on terrorism, of course, so much of the last kind of 40 years, I suppose, in the UK, as opposed to on all-out war, and fingers crossed this whole conversation is redundant, hopefully. Right, moving on, let me have a quick look what you've been saying at home. Grumpy Pie Eater, presumably not your real name, is saying the biggest threat to the UK is all the illegal people in the UK of a certain persuasion. We need to wake up now. Beverly said 100% great man speaking the truth. That was Henry Bolton there. And Call Me Old Fashioned says you're at war right now. The reason you don't realise you're already at war is the globalists control mainstream media, politicians and international institutions. They've been trying to find the right wording or the right false flag to mobilise Christians. Like you're thinking. Right, the Defence Secretary has said, the Prime Minister has said very clearly that Defence investment plan must be fully funded. People will know how strongly the Chancellor, John Healey, feels about that because he resigned from the previous government on that very issue as a matter of principle. That will be one to watch, certainly. Oh, they go on. The reason I'm not stood here this morning and setting out what we will spend by when between now and 2035 is because those are conversations for future budgets and future spending reviews, and what the Prime Minister has absolutely been clear about is that we're committed to our fiscal rules. I'm so sorry, I'm getting Thursday throat.
Do you want us to finish it for you?
Yeah, I'm all right, I'll push on. We will set out our spending plans in the usual way to not just outline what we're spending, but crucially how it will be funded. But I like that offer, Mark, and by the end of the night I may be calling on it.
Do you want me to do the weather? I can try to do the weather for the UK. I only know a few cities, but I can try.
Well, it would normally say raining. I would say it just rains, but I don't know, actually it's just sunny now. It's Thursday throat, everybody, I'm so sorry. Still to come this evening. Oh, apparently we're just going to the weather. Here it is.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. A dry day to come for most of us, a few light showers across more northern areas, but for all of us it will be feeling cooler. Most notably across southern and eastern areas of England where we have had a heat wave through this week. Temperatures will be below the heat wave threshold through today, but there will be quite a lot of sunshine, particularly through this afternoon for much of England and Wales. Further north, more in the way of cloud, a few showers coming and going, particularly across parts of Northern Ireland and northern and western Scotland. Quite strong winds up towards the Northern Isles as well. So we'll feel fresher here, temperatures in the mid to high teens, in the mid-20s as we head further south and east. So still a pretty warm day, high UV levels as well. Very little in the way of sunshine to end the day across parts of Scotland. A few breaks potentially across more eastern areas in the cloud, but for most of us it's going to be cloudy skies and showers here and there. They don't look particularly heavy. We have had some quite heavy showers earlier on this week. It does look a little bit lighter than that, but we could see a few of these showers pushing into some western and northern areas of Wales. But for much of England and Wales, it's going to be a dry end to the week, clear skies as we head into Saturday as well. So that will make for another quite fresh start on Saturday morning, particularly across England and Wales and more eastern areas of Scotland, northern England too. Further west, more in the way of cloud, and showers will continue to feed in from the north and west. Temperatures down in the low single figures. Rurally, many towns and cities just about 10 or 11 degrees to start the day on Saturday. So plenty of dry weather to come this weekend on both Saturday and Sunday, most notably across more southern and eastern areas. There's a risk of showers through much of the weekend, especially across parts of northern Scotland. But for most of us, it's going to be a dry one. As we head into next week, though, it does look a little bit wetter. And temperatures very similar on Saturday in the mid-20s further south, high teens further north. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories.
And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And meeting your favourite presenters across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Scan the QR code or visit gbnews.com/celebrate. Terms and conditions apply.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Got some breaking news for you now. President Trump has said that the Board of Peace has reached an agreement for the complete disarmament of Hamas, as well as other armed groups in Gaza. Posting on Truth Social, the president has said today the Board of Peace reached a historic agreement for the complete disarmament of Hamas and all other armed groups in Gaza. This is a monumental step towards lasting peace and security. This agreement is a critical step towards Gaza finally being governed by a new Palestinian government that will work closely with the Board of Peace to help the Palestinian people. He goes on, at the same time, Israel will have the security that it deserves, with Gaza no longer used as a base for terror attacks. This is a major milestone in the implementation of the Trump 20-point plan. The agreement will be carried out in carefully structured phases. As disarmament is completed, Israeli forces will withdraw, and the International Stabilization Force will work with a new Palestinian police force to take responsibility for Gaza being safe for its residents and its neighbours. 1 year ago, there was a violent, raging war, humanitarian crisis, and hostages kept in brutal captivity. We have made historic progress, and there is still much work to do. I want to thank the mediators, Egypt, Qatar and Turkey, for their important efforts, and especially my outstanding team, whose tireless work made this historic breakthrough possible. The threat that emerged from Gaza on October the 7th will not be allowed to rebuild. Under this agreement, Gaza will finally be in the hands of a new Palestinian government that serves its people. Congratulations to all on this amazing development that everybody said could never be achieved. Saw a rumour online a few days ago that this was coming, and I thought, that can't be true. That's too big. That's not possibly true. If President Trump has pulled this off, that's massive.
There's an old saying in American journalism, if your mother tells you she loves you, check it out. And so we'll wait for developments. The Washington Post just said 5 minutes ago that neither Hamas nor Israel has immediately confirmed that they had signed on to this. It could be also an attempt to pressure the parties. Maybe there was a roadblock. This happens sometimes where the president will announce something, kind of forcing the parties to say, well, he announced it, I guess we got to go along. So I think we're going to have to see what Hamas and Israel respond. And is it like what's happened with Iran, where the U.S. and Iran signed a memorandum of understanding only for both sides to say, no, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. And both sides had different views of what it actually said.
What do you make of it, Mali?
Yeah, a few things. I'm going to be skeptical, A, because we just need verification from the actual parties involved, and then B, I think everyone has a little bit of whiplash when it comes to Trump's statements on Iran and how many times we won that war and reached some sort of agreement. But let's say there is some there. I think it would be obviously a great achievement. This is something where the amount of violence in that region, the amount of suffering that happens in Gaza is unbearable. I will be interested to see, if this is the case, what the folks of Hamas got in return, because here's the thing, people don't just give up their arms and give up their leverage for no reason, right? And it makes me think that they must have gotten some sort of solid commitments to a Palestinian state, to some sort of government governing their own territory. Otherwise, why would they do this?
So there is a hedge by a U.S. official in this story from the Washington Post. A U.S. official said, speaking on the condition of anonymity to discuss these sensitive negotiations, quote, "We're not asking Israel to do anything other than agree to the 20-point plan that they agreed to initially, and so we're very confident they'll adhere to it. If they don't, obviously President Trump will be very, very disappointed."
But let's just stop. Let's just think this through, because this is a massive geopolitical announcement if this is the case. Because what President Trump has wanted to do since he got into office nearly two years ago is a global peace settlement in the Middle East, right? Choking off the military-industrial complex, because who's not happy tonight? The people who make bombs are the people who are going to be deeply they don't like peace.
Yeah.
He wants to be known as the president of peace. He said that from the moment he's got in. And I know that people laugh at him and go, yeah, well, you've created wars. You're not that, are you? If he does manage to pull this off, and he has cleaned up the Middle East in terms of Gaza and Israel, and there is an agreement, and he has disarmed Hamas, all he's got to do, and I say all because it's not exactly easy, is sort out Iran.
That's a tough one.
That is a tough one, and that is no doubt harder than he expected it to be. But what he's done is he's promised them prosperity. And I know that won't work with Iran. This is the thing. It might work with the Palestinians. It will work with Israel. It will work with those countries that want to be successful and do well from a prosperity, an economic, a stability, a peace point of view. Israel is the fly in the ointment.
Bev, there are two things here. I think this is also probably connected to the deal that we saw somewhat announced but kind of walked back of Saudi Arabia potentially recognizing and normalizing relations with Israel, because a big key point there was, will Saudi Arabia ever do that if the Palestinian issue is not resolved?
Yes.
So I think those two could be connected. Trump is trying to get the Saudi Arabia deal across the finish line, which means making progress on the Palestine front with Hamas. The one issue, and some people might disagree with me here, but I think it's 100% the case, I'm also worried about the Israel front, because I believe Benjamin Netanyahu sees his whole political stakes tied to waging wars against perceived enemies of Israel. And I think it is not necessarily in his political interest to have peace, and he is always constantly worried that there are threats against Israel, and there are threats against Israel, but his political identity is based on this, and I think once that gets lessened and removed, he has to face a whole host of domestic political consequences.
And real quick, I don't think this is the end game. I think President Trump very much wants to have as a lasting legacy that he expanded the Abraham Accords from his first term. So you had UAE, you had Bahrain, you had Morocco, and Saudi Arabia, whether official or off the record, has said, essentially through the media, it's not going to sign on to the Abraham Accords until everything is wrapped up with Gaza and Israel and Hamas and all that. So I actually think this is a step. I don't think this is the end game. I think this is a step for President Trump to bring other countries into the Abraham Accords if he can.
Exactly, which we know has been his ambition for the last few months at least, if not before. Let me go to Christo and Lewis on this. If you just are tuning in, the breaking news: Hamas has agreed to disarm. So President Trump's Board of Peace has reached agreement with the militant group. Now, of course, Christo, who funds Hamas? Iran. Now, we know that Iran, he's choked them off with Operation Epic Fury. So what do you make of this? This is one massive, big geopolitical chessboard, but it looks like President Trump is achieving his aim.
The devil will be in the detail, and I think it's always important to caveat that with some of Donald Trump's boasts. However, how many times have we, probably you a bit less, Bev, because I think you can see a little bit past some of this, but how many times have I rolled my eyes and thought, oh God, Trump's going on again, he's going to solve world peace, and then he does. He actually does come up with the goods. And I just wonder whether this is going to be one of those moments where we all we all end up saying, gosh, was there some method in some of his madness? Iran, it would be wrong to say Iran has gone to plan perfectly. I think none of us think that it probably has. However, again, is this the way in which Trump has gone around actually achieving a goal that we all thought he was mad to attempt, and actually it might work out?
Yeah, Lewis, what do you make of it at this stage? Because I don't think that at this, you know, since he came into office here, I know he said he was draining the swamp first time around, but the conversations that I've had here in Washington DC is about him not necessarily wanting. He wants to do more than drain the swamp. He wants to literally rip up the global order as it is now, what you might call the deep state. He did it when he stood up at the UN and he called out all those people. He did it in Davos. Rubio does it every time he steps on stage. The ambition of this government is not to just tinker around the edges and maybe, you know, make a nice treaty with Iran. They want to rip it up root and branch so that by the time they're out of office, the world looks like a different place for all sorts of reasons. And one of the entities that they need to castrate in that is the military-industrial complex. And that, I believe, is very much at the heart of one of the things that this government wants to do, is to create a more peaceful world. If he can do this, it will be life-changing for all of us. I might be wrong, Lewis. What do you think?
I think you might be being a tad bit hopeful. I mean, you know, if Trump could do all these things, then that would be great, but I just don't think he can. I think he's lost a lot of credibility over the years with announcing things like this, and then when it comes to the devil in the details, things seem to fall apart. I just don't think he's got this way with things, and people like that he's a straight shooter and he comes out a bit left field. But what's really changed for Americans? I mean, your gas prices are high, your food prices are high, you've got dragged into another war. I don't really see how this is all doing everything a bit differently.
The southern border is closed. Your illegal migration issue is finished. Like, that is a big change for this country. And President Trump will talk about that in terms of safety and security of the country as well. Go on, Mali.
Well, Bev, I was going to say, we do have to, again, be skeptical on some of these announcements. Hegseth stated the second week after the conflict that Iran's military has been completely destroyed. And then he said that they have been made combat ineffective for years to come. 3 weeks after that, he declared that Iran was rendered militarily inoperable. Obviously, those things were not true. He said that we had achieved total victory. 4 months from then, we are still at this war. It is not going well. It has spiked gas prices in the U.S. It has made life less affordable for folks in the U.S. And I know you're concerned about the military-industrial complex. The Trump budget is requesting $1.2 trillion for military spending while they cut spending on healthcare and other priorities. And President Trump's kids themselves are making money off the military-industrial complex. They have companies that have contracted with the Department of Defense, so they are making money from the Trump government. They are the military-industrial complex.
Well, the Trump family would say that they would deny that they've made some money on it, but it is transparent. But it is transparent. They have made money on it. You're right.
Investments, and you can say it was up.
Yeah, they've invested in these projects. So you're absolutely right. I mean, we don't have the finance sheet at the moment, but there is no doubt that. But it is there. It is all rather transparent as well. Let me talk now to former Conservative Minister Tom Pursglove. Tom, thank you so much for joining us. Good timing to have you with us this evening. So, what do you make of that statement from President Trump? He's thanking the mediators, Egypt, Qatar and Turkey. He's talking about the fact that Israel forces are going to withdraw. The International Stabilization Force will work with the new Palestinian police force, take responsibility for Gaza being safe, etc., etc. Too good to be true, Tom?
Well, look, it's great that there's that strong sense of support for trying to really shift the dial on this in the region. But we've been here before, haven't we? We've had many false dawns during the course of this conflict, but also in terms of the conflict with Iran. And you do often feel that these big announcements, these sort of big shock announcements from Donald Trump when they come, are often about putting the squeeze on the various partners involved in the deal-making process. to try and get them to a place where he would want them to be. So it would seem to me that there's still quite a long way to go. You need to hear what the various parties involved in this think of where they've got to. I mean, already the Israelis have come out and been very clear that in order to be able to agree to this, they would need to see complete demilitarization, complete removal of weapons from Gaza. Perfectly reasonable requests that they are asking certainly need to be delivered on in order for a peace to be credible, because ultimately you're dealing with a terrorist organisation in Hamas who simply can't be trusted and have proven themselves to be untrustworthy on so many different occasions.
But if they are given what, Tom? They may be cooperative. If they are given wealth, opportunity, prosperity, economic stability, if they are encouraged to exist peacefully with other countries in that area, or possibly forced by their Gulf partners, neighbours, is that what we're looking at here? Just a complete change of the culture, the regime, the way that the infrastructure works? Maybe?
That is a massive ask, isn't it? I mean, look, I would dearly love, as we all would, to see this conflict come to an end, to see that more peaceful status in the Middle East. But we're a long way away from that. The horrors of October the 7th loom large, quite understandably. That the bloodshed that we saw, the appalling atrocities, understandably trouble every Israeli citizen, and the Israeli government are completely right to have that at the forefront of their mind when they approach these matters. And for the reasons that you said, you also have to inject an element of scepticism about all of this because of the relationships between Hamas and Iran. And we know that that has been a very bumpy process. We've seen positive mood music and positive signals, only for these things to then pick up momentum again and to sort of see hostilities resume. So this is part of a much wider geopolitical jigsaw that we're seeing playing out in the region. But I think it's great. Look, the fact that you've got many countries in the region working together to try and achieve these ends, an expansion of the Abraham Accords would be massively welcome, have huge, wide-sweeping benefits across a whole range of fronts. And we've probably seen a more united front in the region in standing up against some of this behaviour and calling for action and calling for proper negotiated solutions. I guess the other point I would make is that as we've seen
just briefly,
in the Iran...
Tom, briefly, we've got... Go on, 5 seconds, Tom. Good news.
I was just going to say that we saw in the sort of Iran context that quite often a lot of the negotiation was an agreement to have a further negotiation. So I think this is really where all of the detail in this matters, but hopefully that will become a bit clearer in the next 24 hours.
Yeah, OK, super. Thank you so much, Tom, for staying up. Brilliant. Tom Perskov there. More to come in the next hour, including a smash hit, anti-woke, mythical drama, The Pendragon Cycle. You do not want to miss it. I promise you, I know you lot at home, and I know you're going to love this. It's an interview with Jeremy Boring. Don't go anywhere.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update, brought to you from the Met Office. A dry day to come for most of us. A few light showers across more northern areas, but for all of us it will be feeling cooler. Most notably across southern and eastern areas of England, where we have had a heat wave through this week. Temperatures will be below the heat wave threshold through today, but there will be quite a lot of sunshine, particularly through this afternoon for much of England and Wales. Further north, more in the way of cloud, a few showers coming and going, particularly across parts of Northern Ireland and northern and western Scotland. Quite strong winds up towards the Northern Isles as well. So we'll feel fresher here, temperatures in the mid to high teens, in the mid-20s as we head further south and east. It's still a pretty warm day, high UV levels as well. Very little in the way of sunshine to end the day across parts of Scotland. A few breaks potentially across more eastern areas in the cloud, but for most of us it's going to be cloudy skies and showers here and there. They don't look particularly heavy. We have had some quite heavy showers earlier on this week. It does look a little bit lighter than that. But we could see a few of these showers pushing into some western and northern areas of Wales. But for much of England and Wales, it's going to be a dry end to the week. Clear skies as we head into Saturday as well. So that will make for another quite fresh start on Saturday morning, particularly across England and Wales and more eastern areas of Scotland, northern England too. Further west, more in the way of cloud, and showers will continue to feed in from the north and west. Temperatures down in the low single figures. Rurally, many towns and cities just about 10 or 11 degrees to start the day on Saturday. So plenty of dry weather to come this weekend on both Saturday and Sunday, most notably across more southern and eastern areas. There's a risk of showers through much of the weekend, especially across parts of northern Scotland. But for most of us, it's going to be a dry one. As we head into next week, though, it does look a little bit wetter. And temperatures very similar on Saturday in the mid-20s further south, high teens further north. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories.
And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And meeting your favourite presenters across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Scan the QR code or visit gbnews.com/celebrate. Terms and conditions apply.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again
to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me. What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Live from Washington, D.C., this is Bev Turner on GB News with the stories shaping Great Britain and America. Coming up tonight.
He's going to have to mention it because it's killing your country. And they're invading Europe. I mean, they're invading Europe. It's an invasion. And the UK is a prime suspect.
The president called it an invasion in conversation with me yesterday, but he turned out to be extremely psychic because thousands of migrants swam into the Spanish enclave of Ceuta today from Morocco. Is this the height of Europe's border farce? Also.
Our relationship with Europe is at the heart of our foreign policy, and I've been visiting our closest neighbours that have been so badly affected by the wildfires, and together we're going to tackle the climate crisis because it's absolutely in our national interest.
Oh, give me strength. As the Foreign Secretary has been touring Europe, pledging solidarity amidst the wildfires, Suffolk is battling an inferno covering an area roughly the size of 140 football pitches. In France, they arrested more than 160 people for arson. We're going to have an explanation as to what it's all about. Also,
They put me out, and they have me saying, and you can't tell the difference, things that I never said.
well, this hasn't gone away. The President's war against the BBC has gone to the next level as his lawyers are going to reportedly try to force the head of BBC News to testify as part of Trump's $10 billion defamation lawsuit. Also,
all of this is an illusion, an echo of a voice that has died. And soon that echo will cease.
it is the big budget, smash hit, anti-woke, mythical drama, The Pendragon Cycle, Rise of the Merlin. And its co-creator and former CEO of the Daily Wire, Jeremy Boring, is going to be with me in the studio to tell me all about why it is so successful. I promise you, you're going to enjoy that also tonight.
You've had a couple of weeks to get to know our new Prime Minister. Have you spoken to him much? And do you think he is the man to lead us to excellency?
Well, he did say one very good thing. He said he's going to open up North Sea oil.
Minister Andy Burnham appears to be receptive to Trump's advice because he signalled that he may be ready to ditch Ed Miliband's agenda, admitting that Britain can't ignore North Sea oil and gas. Is this the end of net zero in the UK? I'm Bev Turner. This is The Late Show Live. With me in the studio tonight, Democrat strategist Malbert Smith, journalist and broadcaster Mark Albert. A pair of Malberts tonight is what I have, and in London, what's the collective noun for Malberts?
Malbert, Malbai. That's if we were French.
Yeah, that's but no, the collective noun. I think we have to say you're a brain of Malberts. How about that? Does that work?
Together we have
a commentary of Malberts I've got with me tonight. In London we've got Christo and Lewis Oakley there as well. I don't know what the collective noun is for you two.
Fabulous.
I love it. A fabulous pair of commentators there in London. We've got Christo and Lewis. Thank you guys for joining us. Now, President Donald Trump, let's move on to this BBC story. President Trump's legal team is seeking to compel the interim head of BBC News, Jonathan Munro, to testify in the president's $10 billion defamation lawsuit against the broadcaster. President Trump's lawyers are intending to seek evidence from former Director General Tim Davie as well, as they continue to challenge a Panorama programme which they claim misleadingly edited Mr. Trump's speech before the January the 6th Capitol riots. If voluntary cooperation is refused, the president's legal team could ask an American court to seek assistance from the High Court in London to obtain the evidence. With me now is former BBC producer and editor John Mayer. John, thank you so much for joining me. What do you make of this latest twist in the story here? President Trump was also asked to give all sorts of detail in his discovery as well. None of it is going to play out terribly well for either side, is it, John?
Bev, how nice to see you. I missed that you saw Trump yesterday. Did you ask him some sensible questions this time around? You didn't 2 or 3 months ago.
Of course. Look, I did.
Trump is not in my view. Trump is in big trouble on this case. His case is disappearing by the day. What you missed is earlier on this week, the judge ruled that the BBC had the right to see all of his financial records. That's all of his financial records, his tax returns, everything. So he's worth $6.7 billion apparently. So So Trump is running scared. The case has disappeared. Look, the program wasn't shown in Florida. It wasn't shown in America. Half of the case has gone away because he's not suing BBC Studios. You know, his lawyers are struggling. They're looking for life belts, and this isn't one. You know, what's Jonathan Monroe going to tell him? What's Tim David going to tell him? Is Trump going to appear in court himself? Is Trump going to actually, appear there and say, look, the BBC made a mistake. They made a mistake. They edited 2 bits of sync together. They shouldn't have done. They apologised. That should be it. Full stop. So, why go on? What Trump is trying to do is destroy the problem. He's trying to, what's that, Bev?
Maybe the problem that BBC News has been making repeatedly for many, many years is just peddling government propaganda and not being honest with the British public about a multiple number of issues. And when President Trump said to me in that interview, which you very kindly criticised at the start of your interaction with me, John, I don't think that's particularly classy. But I think what President Trump was getting at, he said if they can come for me, they can come for anybody. And he's right. He's saying the BBC seems to think it is above the law, it is above the usual rules of broadcasting, that you think you are the authority on everything, that you have your BBC Verify department, which is supposed to be above everything, and you are gloriously right about everything. That is patently untrue. It's why GB News is now watched more than BBC News, because the British public have seen through people like you who've been lying to them for years, John.
That's a point of view, Bev. It's a point of view. It's an interesting point of view. It's wholly wrong, Bev, because the BBC is independent. Look, they criticise this British government, they criticise the American government, they criticise Trump, they criticise Starmer. No, I mean the BBC is not the British lying corporation. So that's a myth. Trump wants to destroy the BBC. He wants $10 million, $10 million. Now that's the entire licence fee. If he gets that, the BBC closes down. Do the British public want that? I think not. No, I mean, Trump has bullied the American media, bullied them into submission. He's now trying to bully the British media.
And maybe you need a bit of bullying. And maybe it's time that the BBC gets a bit of bullying. Maybe it's time that the BBC is held to account. The BBC News department is finally held to account. Maybe that's what he's doing on behalf of all those people, that record number of people, John, that will no longer pay the licence fee. Why are those people no longer paying the BBC licence fee? Why do they feel let down, so let down by the BBC that they won't even pay that money?
Bev, you're forgetting that 23 million people do pay the licence fee. 23 million, all right.
They don't have a choice.
Some people are not paying. 23 million people are paying the licence fee, but the licence fee is up for grabs. I mean, that's currently being discussed. So, the BBC is a national broadcaster, it's an international broadcaster. It's not beyond reproach, but it's a gold standard, and Trump won't kill it. Trump is here today, gone tomorrow. Trump. In 2 years' time, he'll be gone. The BBC will survive Trump.
You and I would agree that I believe that there are elements of the BBC that is done very, very well. Your drama's brilliant. Factual entertainment, world class. Makes money for the industry or for the organisation all across the world with BBC Worldwide. Some of the children's production, pretty good. Some of the radio, okay. Where you don't do well is your news broadcasting, your factual news, current affairs. And this Panorama programme comes under that remit. Why? Because I think there's an echo chamber within those corridors of people who all think the same way and are too weak to stick their necks out and put their hand up and say something like, hang on a minute, President Trump doesn't get everything wrong, Nigel Farage doesn't get everything wrong, and you never hear that balance on the BBC, John. We have such strict rules about balance here at GB News. As you can see from my panel, every single night we have left and right. I repeatedly watch items on BBC News. Doesn't have any balance.
Look, Bev, it's a shame you're not in Britain, because you can watch a series called Evolution, which is on at the moment with Chris Packham, and it is simply superb. It's worth the licence fee on itself. It's a programme of 6 programmes. He's the new David Attenborough. So look, you destroy the BBC, you destroy British culture. So don't try it, Donald, because you won't succeed.
He might, though. And do you think he will? Do you think he will push it that far?
So why did the judge this week rule that you had to reveal all of his financial details? You didn't use that in the intro, did you? You know, even his tax returns, all of his companies are going to have to reveal all the details of it. Trump fought that tooth and nail, and he lost. He's lost everything on this lawsuit. You know, I don't know why he's bothering. Has he got better things to do than like bomb Iran or other more interesting things than trying to kill the BBC?
This stage of this process, as I started my conversation, was saying that it actually is difficult for both sides. President Trump won't want to reveal the financial details of what could be as many as 400 companies. And the BBC won't want to reveal all of the emails and the text messages and the WhatsApp messages which related to the production of this programme, which is what they are being asked to do. But I think there may come a point in this process where President Trump does revise the terms of this because of the transparency that's being requested. And I applaud the BBC's lawyers for asking for all of that information. It's very good legal action, in my opinion. Looking objectively, of course, that's what they should do, because President Trump is not going to want to do that. But I think the principle remains that the edit of Panorama was wrong, but it was one very small brick in the wall that is built by the BBC to depict Trump as a maniac, a megalomaniac, and someone that should never be trusted. That is what the BBC does. And for Trump, this is the smoking gun.
Trump has got, I think it's 5 days and counting to reveal his financial details. You know, look, it was a mistake. It was a mistake. M-I-S-T-A-K-E. The BBC admits it. The chairman admitted it. He apologized to Trump. That should be the end of it. You know, Trump should be a bit humble for a change and actually say, "All right, folks, you made a mistake," and they did. And by the way, it wasn't a BBC program. It was shown by the BBC. It was made by an independent. Yeah, made by an independent, not made within the confines of, you know, it wasn't the echo chamber of the Broadcasting House newsroom. It was somebody else, and it should have been spotted. It was stupid that it went out, absolutely stupid.
Well,
and you know,
you only have to watch You only have to watch half an hour of BBC News or listen to Radio 4 to hear that President Trump is always the butt of the jokes. There is no respect afforded to him ever, and there's always a slight snidey joke about President Trump. You've said it yourself, hasn't he got better things to do, like bombing Iran? That sort of disdain is what he's trying to call out, and I'm going to be watching it very keenly. John, thank you so much. From the BBC producer and editor, John Mayer there. We've got to move on. Right, gentlemen, that was nice, wasn't it? Always nice to be offended straight off the bat by your guests who you've invited on your show.
Well,
BBC, should we talk about that? And Trump, what do you make of it?
Well, it's one of those things where it is a bit mutually assured destruction here, because discovery in this lawsuit does not benefit either side. Because you're going to have email, I am sure, of BBC employees saying different things about how they don't like Trump. You're going to have the discovery on the Trump end of his financial records, and potentially, I'm sure they can unearth emails of his staffers and maybe texts from him, I don't know, that are potentially embarrassing. It will embarrass all sides. I think the Trump administration and President Trump himself was a little bit more confident moving in on this because he had success suing other U.S. media companies, and then those U.S. media companies settling with President Trump. But I think they kind of miscalculated in that those media companies probably could have won those lawsuits on the merits. They settled because they didn't want to have to, A, have the president mad at them, and then B, there were important mergers like the HBO merger that essentially was saying, like, look, we don't want to just deal with this problem. We're going to settle to get President Trump on our good side, so they will greenlight the merger. Thing is, BBC ain't merging with HBO or any U.S. TV station, so there's no real financial incentive.
Christo, I'm keen to know what you make of it and my assessment there of BBC News. Was it fair?
I think that it was fair, actually. Look, I don't come at this hating the BBC like you. I want the BBC to be successful. I think the BBC being good makes other broadcasters good. Competition is a good thing. The problem is we're all forced to pay for it, so therefore when a mistake is made, it becomes far more important, that mistake. There's much more of a light shone on it. But to the point of your guest there, the BBC producer, yes, they apologised, but it was the kind of apology that they made that Donald Trump, I think, actually said to you personally, Bev, the issue he had with that apology, because they actually used the word unintentional when it came to the way in which the clip was spliced together. And how could it be unintentional? You can't take two clips from two separate parts of a speech, put them together, represent them as one thing, and then say, oh, sorry, we didn't mean to do that. Well, that's a deliberate act. And I think had their apology been a bit more robust and actually said, you know what, we totally screwed up, we intended to misrepresent you, and we shouldn't have done that, we need to learn our lesson, maybe they wouldn't have been in this situation.
I think you're probably right. What do you make of it, Mark?
So I was in TV newsrooms for 25 years, and let me just tell you, the number of mistakes that I made unintentionally could fill up a couple pages, and I regret all of them. And so I don't know what happened in this case, but I know in the past when you get transcripts of interviews and you're on deadline, oh, this is a good soundbite, this is a good soundbite, you put them together. Again, I don't know what happened in this particular situation, but I've made mistakes because I wasn't paying attention, we were in a hurry, it was not intentional. And so I see a world where this was unintentional. I don't know what happened.
This is a documentary series. Panorama is a documentary, so
which
it's not made against the clock. They will have months and months and months and months to make this, and it will have been looked at by hundreds, like dozens of people.
It's supposed to be their flagship show of investigative journalism, Panorama, and also, you know, I've worked both in front of the camera and for years behind the camera in television, and when you have two clips that you splice together, you put a flash between them. You make it clear that you are that one clip is from one time and the one clip is the other, even if you are splicing them together, and that didn't happen. And so it was a huge and monumental mistake.
But what are we talking about here? The BBC already held up their hands and said that they made a mistake. I think the real thing here is, I feel like this is why Trump has barely any base left. Like, surely the American people want him to be focused on making America great again, cost of living. The fact that he's spending his time suing a foreign news entity, I don't think that's what people put him there to do. The fact that he's subpoenaing this guy or whatever to force Jonathan to come over, who probably wasn't even in the room when that decision to not put that white flash in there was made. And I just don't understand this. Again, feels like a situation Trump's gotten himself into that's now gotten so messy, that's now said they want all of his financial records to prove that there was actually an impact. And what does it mean for us Brits? Can I just say this? Hold on. What it means for us Brits is that either the BBC is going to go bankrupt or they're going to want more money from us. I'm not going to thank Trump for that. And I'm sorry, but if the BBC collapses, it should be because British people turned off, because more than 500,000 people last year stopped paying the licence fee. It should be British people that own the BBC, not Trump's ego.
In the defence of the licence fee, we are constantly told that the BBC is the worldwide benchmark for journalism. There's never the argument, when people are arguing in favour of the licence fee, no one just says, oh, well, it's only a British organisation. We're constantly told it's the world service. The world looks at the BBC for journalism. And then when they make a mistake, your argument is, well, actually, look, it was only the UK. And, you know, why is he going after a UK broadcaster? Well, that UK broadcaster broadcasts worldwide, as we are constantly told by those people who want us to keep the license.
I'm not defending the BBC here. I'm just saying the President of the United States has a commitment to the American people to be doing what he said he would do in the election, not wasting time litigating with the BBC over nonsense.
You don't think American people watch the BBC?
And politically, though, you are correct, because we have polling on this. The vast majority of Americans, 70% of Americans, think that President Trump is not focused on the right issues, not focused on the cost of living, not focused on improving America. Now, I understand why you guys in the UK are interested in this, because it involves BBC, it involves your flagship news organization. You have this license fee.
Former flagship news organisation.
Sorry, GB News, the flagship news operation. And you have the license.
Get your facts right on this show.
But I do think politically, if I was advising President Trump, and even though I'm on the other side, you don't want these stories coming up because it makes it seem like President Trump is focused on the wrong things. The Americans don't care about bankrupting the BBC. They care about their own financial situation and not becoming bankrupt.
But let me say what I think is going on here in the White House is their biggest frustration is the depiction of Trump policies, which always come through the lens of a pejorative depiction of Trump. And so they see this case, I believe, as the smoking gun. They coined the phrase fake news. That is a Trumpian phrase from his first term in office. And this, they feel, is the proof they've been looking for. And it's the fact that it's the BBC, that it is a brand which should be respected across the world. That's what they think is so powerful. And so it's become totemic. I think for them it is totemic of the fake news industry, which never gives him a fair shot. And Mark, you've worked in the media here, as you say, for many years in the anchor role. Is it fair to say that President Trump is always the butt of the jokes because of his personality and his delivery and his history as well before he became president, that he does get treated maybe slightly differently by some news outlets?
Well, I would say in every newsroom I was ever in, you want a scoop and you want an exclusive. And if President Trump is going to break a story or break an exclusive, just like we did on this program here, he's talking about the peace deal and we're going to see about all the facts, but you're going to cover it. And so I never saw in the newsrooms I was in a desire not to cover what President Trump was doing. Look, I want a scoop just like anybody else. And I really don't care who's giving the scoop.
But isn't it about how he's covered? That's his frustration. So the documentary in question was running up to the second election, and I think it was called something like President Trump a Second Chance. And it was speculating as to whether he would get elected a second time, and of course he did. And it used those events of January the 6th on the Capitol Hill, and he said, he was talking to the crowd, they'd edited a clip together, they were 45 minutes apart, in which he said, we will go up there and we will... In reality, he'd said something like, we will make our voices heard, we will protest. Later on, he'd said, talking about democracy, we need to fight, fight, fight. And the edit was, we will go to the Capitol and we will fight, fight, fight. That's how it had been edited. So it was deliberately putting words in his mouth to cast him as the aggressor on that occasion. So for the White House, they say that this is not fair because the events of that day are constantly brought up, particularly on this show, from guests who sit on my left at this desk. Can't wait to talk about January the 6th. They can't wait. They're still using that as the example of how Trump is an evil man. They want it to be put to bed once and for all, and that's why they're taking this action, I think. But as some of you have said, that is quite a hard sell for the American people. But should he do it, Mark? Will it make a difference? Will networks be pausing? Let me ask you this. Will networks be pausing before they depict him in a way that they might think could be defamatory?
So Mally pointed this out a minute ago, which is a lot of the networks in the U.S. that Trump sued or said he was going to sue then settled, particularly after he won the White House for his second term. And so, for example, ABC, one of the networks here, settled for $15 million in, I believe it was December 2024, January 2025. But now look what happened a year later. The FCC chairman and the FCC are challenging early the license of ABC-owned stations. So the settlement did not change the state of play. President Trump's administration is still going after those ABC stations. So was the settlement effective? That's unclear because that has not changed the state of play.
Okay. All right. Well, it is still ongoing, of course, and it is definitely one to watch because I do find it fascinating, the whole case, because I do think he'll change the terms of it in some point. I think he'll narrow them, and I don't think he's going to want to give up his financial records. Right, in a landmark case that could reshape how parents are held accountable for school shootings, a Georgia father has been sentenced to 15 years in prison after being convicted for his role in the deadly 2024 attack at Appalachia High School. Prosecutors have argued that Colin Gray ignored repeated warning signs about his son's deteriorating mental health and provided him with a rifle that was then used in the massacre. So the father, Gray, has been convicted of murder and manslaughter for buying his son an AR-15 style rifle as a Christmas gift and then leaving it unsecured. Now, the case is among the first in America to hold a parent criminally responsible for a mass shooting carried out by their child. And this has, of course, renewed the debate over gun access, parental responsibility and preventing future tragedies. Right, boys here in America. How much of a moral conundrum has this opened up here in the States? Because it's pretty high profile, this case, and pretty unprecedented.
Yeah, and it is a novel legal strategy to prosecute the parents when it comes to gun violence. But I do get it in the sense that in the United States we have a huge gun culture. It's up for debate. There's big political debates about it. But I'm someone who thinks that, yes, Americans should have a legal right to own a gun, but owning a gun also comes with responsibilities and liabilities that you need to account for. And if you're going to have a household where these weapons, where a kid can easily take them and kill dozens of people, you need to make sure that the gun is locked away and safe. And you need to also make sure, if you're buying a gun for someone, like the parent was doing for their son.
And he was 14.
He was 14. That the son is, well, first off, I don't know about a father buying a gun for a son
That's
who's
not
underage.
normal, is it? That's not common. Is that common in America?
Yes.
Is it?
Yes.
Is it? So a father would buy their 14-year-old son a gun, presumably what? Out in the woods, maybe you go hunting, you teach them to look after it and put it in a safe.
So I would even say that there are millions of Americans who like to hunt, and I think actually 14 is kind of old to be getting a firearm in some parts of the U.S.
In America.
Yeah.
My South Carolina cousins.
Goodness me.
I'm from North Carolina, but my South Carolina cousins had guns at such an early age, went out hunting in the single digits. I remember going to family reunions, and in their car, they had, now it was unloaded, a pistol that they would like play with, right, as like a fake gun because it wasn't loaded, but it was a real pistol.
And I mean, I know that children die accidentally quite commonly in this country, don't they? Using
it's one of the leading causes of death.
I think it's the leading cause
the
of
leading
death.
cause of death in children, I think, in this country, isn't it? Accidental shootings, which is kind of mind-blowing. It's such a difficult story. I love this story because it's so difficult as a Brit to get our heads around. There's so much common ground between our two countries, but on this issue we are so far apart. Let me bring in Christo as well down there, and Lewis as well in London on this as well, because it blows my tiny mind, Lewis. You're a father. To think that you would give your child a gun in their single digits, a 9-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 7-year-old, a gun, but this is happening. If that child does something with that gun, surely it's your fault.
Yeah,
that's what this legal case has just proven.
It's so wild listening to this as a Brit, because I didn't even trust my child when he was 14 with an unrestricted access to his phone. Never mind a gun that can take someone's life. I mean, what are we even talking about here? And I'm sorry, as a parent, it is all on you. You know, when my kids have been naughty or done something in public, like, it is my fault that they did that. They're my children. I have to control them. If they've got bad behavior, it's on me to sort that out. I mean, some of the things that this guy did, I mean, he gave his son an AR-15 style rifle. He allowed unrestricted access to guns and ammunition. He knew he was obsessed with school shootings. I mean, all of the signs were there. So I do think that there should be parental responsibility. And I actually think we probably raise a better generation of children overall if we have more parental responsibility. The only other thing I can't really gauge as a Brit is that this father has been given 15 years in jail, but I believe the prosecutor wanted 80. And I mean, in the UK, you could probably launch a nuclear weapon and not get 15 years in jail because we're so light with our sentencing now. So I can't judge whether 15 is quite hefty, because in the UK it would be, or whether it's not enough.
So sentencing guidelines in the U.S. almost always come with a range. So prosecutors typically ask for the top of the range and the defense asks for the lower range, and the judge comes somewhere in the middle unless there are extenuating circumstances. So 15 years for this offense is pretty accepted.
So, because 3 children died, I think, in the school shooting, didn't they? So the boy that carried out the crime at 14, I believe he's gone to prison for life. At 14, now 15, he's gone to prison for life. Can you? Sorry, go on, Christo.
I was just going to say without parole, and I think that the important detail in this case, which I think makes the father much more culpable, was that the police actually visited this teenager at his home in 2023 after the FBI had tipped them off about an alleged threat made by him to, and I quote, shoot up a school. And then the father, after that visit, then decided to give his son a gift of an automatic rifle. So you've got the general gun culture where a parent might give their child a gun. I mean, I can't get my head around that, but I understand it happens in the States. But in this case, there were clearly warning signs. The police had already visited the house. The FBI had already visited the house to say, look, there has been a threat made by your son. There was a shrine in his room to previous school shooters. And then the father thought, oh, okay, well, actually, an ideal gift will be then to give him an automatic rifle. And that is why I do think that there is absolutely accountability from the father here. The father, and the judge actually said, you know, even if you put a lock on that rifle, you wouldn't be here today. And that's why it's so important. And I think he should be held accountable.
And hopefully this sets a precedent that saves more lives. It should save more lives.
It's a very powerful message. But then, honestly, though, as a mother of teenagers, there but for the grace of God, go any of us. Because once you've got a teenager, they are very, very hard to control. And the idea that you can have a rogue kid. I mean, thank goodness we don't have guns in the UK. When you look at those teen takeovers that we're seeing in the UK at the moment on the streets of Clapham and Ealing, etc., you would have dozens of scallies literally shooting each other in the UK. So just be grateful that we don't have guns. Right, still to come on The Late Show Live tonight.
All of this is an illusion, an echo of a voice that has died. And soon that echo will cease.
I promise you this is going to be right up your alley. It's a smash hit, anti-woke, mythical drama called The Pendragon Cycle, Rise of the Merlin. It's taking over all the records in the UK, but it's co-creator and former CEO of the Daily Wire, in fact, a conservative news outlet here, Jeremy Boring, is going to be in the studio to tell me all about it. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. A dry day to come for most of us, a few light showers across more northern areas, but for all of us it will be feeling cooler. Most notably across southern and eastern areas of England where we have had a heat wave through this week. Temperatures will be below the heat wave threshold through today, but there will be quite a lot of sunshine, particularly through this afternoon for much of England and Wales. Further north, more in the way of cloud, a few showers coming and going, particularly across parts of Northern Ireland and northern and western Scotland. Quite strong winds up towards the Northern Isles as well. So we'll feel fresher here, temperatures in the mid to high teens, in the mid-20s as we head further south and east. So still a pretty warm day, high UV levels as well. Very little in the way of sunshine to end the day across parts of Scotland. A few breaks potentially across more eastern areas in the cloud, but for most of us it's going to be cloudy skies and showers here and there. They don't look particularly heavy. We have had some quite heavy showers earlier on this week. It does look a little bit lighter than that, but we could see a few of these showers pushing into some western and northern areas of Wales. But for much of England and Wales, it's going to be a dry end to the week, clear skies as we head into Saturday as well. So that will make for another quite fresh start on Saturday morning, particularly across England and Wales and more eastern areas of Scotland, northern England too. Further west, more in the way of cloud, and showers will continue to feed in from the north and west. Temperatures down in the low single figures. Rurally, many towns and cities just about 10 or 11 degrees to start the day on Saturday. So plenty of dry weather to come this weekend on both Saturday and Sunday, most notably across more southern and eastern areas. There's a risk of showers through much of the weekend, especially across parts of northern Scotland. But for most of us, it's going to be a dry one. As we head into next week, though, it does look a little bit wetter. And temperatures very similar on Saturday in the mid-20s further south, high teens further north. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories.
And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And meeting your favourite presenters across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Scan the QR code or visit gbnews.com/celebrate. Terms and conditions apply.
All of this is an illusion, an echo of a voice that has died. And soon that echo will cease.
I'm so excited to tell you all about this. It is a smash hit over in the UK and Europe at the moment. It's what you might describe as an anti-woke mythical drama. It's the Pendragon Cycle, Rise of the Merlin. It's a historical fantasy television series created by Daily Wire Plus, and the show is a vivid retelling of the Arthurian legend, which is set in Roman-occupied Britain, where barbarian invaders threaten to besiege the island. With me now in the studio is the creator, Jeremy Boring. Jeremy, great to see you. Was my assessment of the show accurate in your view?
I thought that was great, yeah. The show is unique. It's based on the writing of Stephen Lawhead, who is an American who expatriated to the UK probably 30 years ago. And the novels had a huge impact on me as a young man when I read them as a teenager, because they treat with a sort of historical accuracy the time period. They set Arthur, as you say, in sub-Roman Britain, in this time of upheaval politically, when Christianity was sort of being protected really by, primarily by the Welsh at that time. And it set all of my sort of foundational values in this mythical setting, but that felt like it could really exist. It has sort of masculinity, a kind of realism that you don't typically get maybe in fantasy. And so it really resonated with me and has been a dream of mine to bring it to the screen ever since.
And it's been one of these fascinating, slow-burning projects, hasn't it? That yes. It's not all over posters in the UK. We don't see billboard campaigns all about the Pendragon Cycle.
No buses.
No buses, but it's very, very popular. Why?
Well, it's it's the #1 fantasy show at the moment. I think it was the #3 series overall on Amazon Prime UK. All word of mouth, and I think that it's because I don't have to tell you that the cultural inheritance of the United Kingdom is remarkable. And America is one of the great beneficiaries of that cultural inheritance. And typically, I think it goes uncelebrated in modern media. People like to deconstruct it, perhaps, or they like to fill it with sort of very modern sensibilities and very modern values. And in that way, they rob both the subject matter and perhaps the culture itself of part of our own legacy.
And so when it's described as anti-woke, do you agree with that description?
Yes, I mean, it's certainly not a political piece. We didn't set out to make a series that was, conservative or right-wing. All we sought to do was tell a story that represented our values while being wildly entertaining. And the beauty of Stephen Lawhead's writing, he wrote these in the 90s. He wrote them before this sort of political moment we're in now, where everything feels so binary. And so when he wrote the story, he had no political agenda whatsoever. He was telling a story that contains his values, but he was fundamentally pursuing it as entertainment. And I think that it benefits from that.
And I wonder if the appeal of this is that there is a thirst at the moment, I think. We're seeing it here in America under President Trump, and I think it's emerging in the UK. A thirst to understand our identity and our roots and our history. Why is that happening, do you think, at the moment in the UK?
of course, it's hard for me to speak to the political reality of the UK, except to say that to the extent that, America is sort of like the little brother of the UK in a historical sense. And so I feel like what we're going through, you must also be going through, and perhaps have been going through longer. And that's that we're one of the only civilizations in history to decide that we didn't want to defend our own narrative, the myth of who we are. If you don't have a common culture, if you don't have a common narrative, if you don't have a common history, you don't have a nation. I mean, fundamentally what a nation is a group of people organized around those very questions. Who are we? Who have we been? What's our role in the world? I had the chance to visit the robing room at Parliament once on a trip to the UK. And it really struck me, you have Victoria's throne, and this is where the British monarch prepares themselves to open the government. And your Parliament building is so spectacular because every square, you stand at a urinal and like Edward IV is looking back at you. Every king is in there 1,000 times, right? Statue after statue. But in the robing room, there are no kings, no actual kings of Britain are present. Instead, there are these wooden reliefs surrounding the room, all from Arthurian legend. And it struck me that in this place where the actual king prepares himself to do his actual constitutional duty, he doesn't contemplate his predecessors. He contemplates the sort of Platonic ideal of the British monarch. And that's the power of this Arthurian myth. It is the thing we're all supposed to contemplate when we ask the question of who are we, how did we come to be here, and what is our contribution?
Another fictional, not fictional, but other fantasy, let's say, drama escapes like they see in this show. People will watch those and they may be, it's a bit like fast food. They go away and it was entertaining and it was escapist for a while and then they go back to their life. It sounds like what you want from this is for people to really contemplate who they are, where they came from, and how they move forward. Is that fair?
Well, I think the number one thing that I want is for people to really like it.
Yeah.
It's a piece of art. It's a piece of entertainment. It's an awful lot of fun. The performances, I think it's the best cast of relative unknowns maybe ever assembled. Almost all British actors, by the way, and an absolutely fantastic and talented cast. Obviously I love the writing of Lawhead and I'm proud of our show, but yes, what I want people to be left with in addition to a great time is a maybe just a little bit more pride in who we are and what we've contributed in the West and what we could still contribute if we could find our way to reconnect with those stories that have made us who we are.
Amazing. Jeremy, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
And you can see the series on Amazon Prime.
On Amazon Prime UK.
Brilliant. Lovely. Thank you so much. Right, moving on. Still to come this evening on The Late Show Live.
You've had a couple of weeks to get to know our new Prime Minister. Have you spoken to him much? And do you think he is the man to lead us to excellency?
Well, he did say one very good thing. He said he's going to open up North Sea oil.
That was me talking to President Trump yesterday when he told me that Andy Burnham appears to be receptive to the advice about opening the North Sea. He's also signalled today, Burnham, that he's ready to ditch Ed Miliband's agenda, admitting that Britain cannot ignore North Sea oil and gas. Is this the end of Not Zero? This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Jubes & Co. with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christys here. GB News.
Britain's news channel.
News channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every week there are stories that shape the national conversation.
We'll be discussing that.
And on Saturday Morning Live, we break them down.
Is that true? This is fascinating, isn't it?
The politics, the headlines, the debates everyone's talking about.
And the questions that you want answered.
Do you think that was a legitimate attack for him to make?
What led you to set up this fantastic movement?
You know what? It's a great question, Olivia.
So what are you waiting for?
Your weekend starts here. Saturdays at 10 a.m. only on GB News.
Well, I want to go home, put my pyjamas on and watch the Pendragon cycles now in bed. Fancy that?
Sounds fun.
Sounds like I was inviting you to come with us.
I'm gay and like Bev's good friend. I'm not going to Bev's.
Okay, and in other news,
I wasn't inviting you to come with me.
You want me to?
Can I just? I'm gonna go over here.
Yeah, can you leave us to it? No.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, I've just broken a million hearts of the men that watch this show seeing me say that to Mel. But anyway, moving swiftly. I was saying it looks like the kind of thing you could just sort of, watch, isn't it? In your pajamas on. So anyway, I'm going to stop digging myself out of this hole. Right, Andy Burnham. Oh, apparently he's prepared to break with Ed Miliband's net zero approach, saying Britain can't ignore North Sea oil and gas despite Labour's opposition to drilling to new drilling licences. The Prime Minister also revealed that he told President Trump he would take a pragmatic approach to North Sea during their first phone call last week. Here's how President Trump described the conversation at the White House when I asked him about it yesterday.
You've had a couple of weeks to get to know our new Prime Minister. Have you spoken to him much? And do you think he is the man to lead us to excellency?
Well, he did say one very good thing. He said he's going to open up North Sea oil.
So with me now is Head of Emerging Technology Policy at the Consumer Choice Centre, James Chanowski. James Chanowski, thank you so much for joining me this evening. So we've got this tension in the air between President Trump and Andy Burnham, and Andy Burnham's being watched. Is he going to drill? Because Trump wants him to, should he?
Yeah, that's a great question, Bev, and I think that he should go and look to drill insofar as it's that, the alternative is that the UK is not doing well on the energy front, right? The costs are high. The consumers are certainly feeling it. The lack of air conditioning is certainly, I think, well renowned between the UK and Europe. I just wrapped up a trip over there in the EU, and the lack of AC was certainly something that I was feeling a lot. And needless to say, I think that is a good opportunity for Andy Burnham to have an olive branch on a key issue with President Trump that we know that he certainly does care about. Because otherwise, right now, certainly underneath his predecessor with Keir Starmer, there was a lot of headbutting between the two governments, and that's not something that's great if we're trying to foster good relations between our two great countries. So here's a good, easy one that we know that President Trump certainly cares deeply about in energy. And the added bonus, too, is that I think that UK consumers can go and benefit in the form of lower prices if they're able to go and tap into those added energy kind of resources that are there.
But the problem is, whenever I talk to the environmentalists on this show, James, or the climate scientists, they will tell me that you can't have your air conditioning and we can't have our North Sea because the planet is going to collapse under the heat, and we've got these wildfires raging in Europe at the moment, partly because the ground is dry, but also partly because people are idiots and they smoke cigarettes and they toss them on the ground, or they leave a barbecue half lit, or they decide to do some marshmallows in the evening, and guess what? They burn the forest down overnight. As an American, do you find it extraordinary when we're talking about this cost-benefit analysis of energy versus the future of the planet, and the extent to which Europe sees the science as completely settled?
Yeah, I think that's a fascinating question, and it is a dynamic that we see kind of play out in the different states here in the U.S., right? Because California notoriously has like a lot of wildfires, and it's because in part that they do a very poor job of managing their wood that they have out there. They're not really cutting down dead trees, so they have a lot of dry wood that leads to a very ripe condition for fires to break out, for wildfires to break out. I lived in Utah for a couple of years, and they obviously had wildfires too, but they're a lot better contained because the state was a lot more active in their management of the program here. So I think that when it's all said and done, it's about what are we doing, and it's something that we saw Mr. Burnham going and talking through is like you can go and I think tackle this in the form of mitigation and trying to go and adapt around some of this rather than trying to just pretend that we can go and just eliminate our carbon emissions and everything will be okay. The UK is ultimately, in terms of global emissions, just representing 0.8% of total global emissions. So even if you eliminated everything, it's really a dent in the overarching picture here. You have the developing world that's actually going and increasing the amount of carbon output that it's doing. And that's, I think, the bigger problem that we need to go and tackle. And you can be concerned about the environment and still have a pragmatic approach to wanting to go and tackle this issue here. You can't ask consumers to bear the cost of that over a long period of time because it's just not sustainable. The high prices are things that they feel, and they're not happy about it. Even if they do care about the planet, they still want to go and do it in a way that's responsible for their pocketbooks, right?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, James. Very sensible. Head of Emerging Technology Policy at the Consumer Choice Centre, James Chanowski there. Thank you so much. Right, my panel are still here. And I cannot talk about net zero anymore. I'm so sorry. I need to talk about something else. It's the last 5 minutes of my week. I've got Thursday throat. Don't do it to me. The Telegraph is saying Elon Musk is returning to the political fray. OK, let's talk about this. With a plan to boost turnout of Republican voters in the midterms, the world's richest man is reviving his campaign group, America PAC, which spent more than $260 million in the 2024 elections in support of President Trump. Mark, should Elon Musk get involved in politics again?
He's got to be careful. There's a case in Wisconsin where he was giving out money during the election, and that case is still going. So if he gets involved again, I think he needs to be very careful.
What do you mean?
So, and I was pulling it up right here. On July 15th, the Wisconsin Election Commission says that Elon Musk likely violated the state's bribery law in a 5-to-1 closed session vote. Commissioners found probable cause that his $1 million giveaway in the race was illegal. So I'm sure he's getting legal advice this time.
Okay. I'm sure he would disagree with that, but go on, Mali.
Well, so I worked the last 3 presidential campaigns, and I can say it's always nice to have more money spent for your campaign, more money from outside groups. With that being said, though, I think the problem Republicans have is the national political environment is not looking great for President Trump. Is not looking great for Republicans. We had a bunch of Fox News polls came out today and yesterday, had Tallarico up in Texas, had John Ossoff up in Georgia, had Roy Cooper, my home state governor, up in North Carolina for Senate. And the simple fact is, Americans are unhappy with the economy. That's the #1 issue. The Iran war is doing President Trump no favors. I think Republicans are hoping that this deluge of Elon Musk's money and the fact that the RNC has raised more money than the DNC is going to help blunt some of that. But with that being said, I'd rather have the national environment on my side than the money.
But Elon Musk might be able to do some good for the Republican Party, Lewis. They reckon that he's going to focus on door knocking with those conservatives who are less likely to vote.
I think he's got
I don't think he's going to be knocking on the door himself.
I think he's got a job on to save the Republicans from a really tough midterm. I mean, even he might not have enough money for all of that. Look, I'm not one of those people on the left that hate Elon at all. I think his contributions have been amazing. You know, electronic cars, internet anywhere. He's trying to make us a multiplanet species. Really great. But what I will say is, you know, is he becoming too powerful? Should one man have that much money to throw into politics? And I understand the American system works a little bit different, but is this really a democracy if whoever has the most money can put that in wins? And yes. I would like to think that people are smart, and even if they see a billboard saying something, that they can use their own critical thinking. But I lived through COVID, and my estimations of people being able to think independently have gone down quite a bit. So I do worry about someone having that much money being able to buy politics. That is my worry.
Christo?
I never worry about anyone having too much money. I love people having lots and lots of money, and it's his money to spend as he likes. But I think the thing that I find the most delicious about this is how many people it's going to irritate, and I love that. It's going to annoy so many people that he's trying to get the Republican vote up. I think he needs to be careful that it doesn't backfire, because sometimes when you have figures like Elon Musk that are divisive, sometimes it can galvanize your rivals to then want to really fight against them, and it sometimes will then backfire. But he gets up so many people's noses. I love it.
Me too. It's not going to annoy me too much, because when we win these midterms, when we take back the House, take back the Senate, hold the Trump administration accountable for their grift and their corruption, and start actually working to make Americans' lives more affordable, the victory will be that much more delicious, because we beat them despite billionaires spending hundreds of millions of dollars to prop up their failing presidency.
You nearly said make America great again then.
I would not.
Oh. No, yeah, you nearly said make America great again. To make America great again. It's a good slogan.
Well,
I think
Trump's
it might catch
not
on.
doing it right now. We got inflation, we have diarrhea lettuce, we have an Iran war.
Diarrhea lettuce.
We do have diarrhea lettuce.
You do have diarrhea lettuce, but even at the Fauci hearing yesterday, you had these Republican senators talking about the fact that we should have been talking about diarrhea lettuce rather than talking about the biggest act of self-harm committed in all of our lifetimes. And that's what the Democrats seem to be preoccupied at the moment. But if you're confused about diarrhea lettuce, there's an outbreak of a virus, what's it called? A cyclosporin.
I tell you something.
Taco Bell anymore.
You can't
Diarrhea
eat Taco
lettuce,
Bell here
Thursday
because
throat,
it's
I'm learning it all.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you for staying with me this week. It's been a busy one. It's been lovely to have you. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office.